Welcome to SmokeHouseStudios.net. The in-studio broadcast feed is now live.
Warning. This show is about the return of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. If you are easily offended by the truth, then you need to keep listening. His return is drawing near.
SmokeHouseStudios.net. The Front Porch Show. A unique blend of current events and what they might mean. Humbly seen through the eyes of God's Word, the Bible, in an old school front porch discussion with occasional guests, your input, and a guiding hand through Christ. Broadcasting from atop the front porch, it's SmokeHouseStudios.net's The Front Porch Show. Now, carefully blending more smoke goodness in each and every soundbite, your host, Smokehouse.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be across the globe and across the United States. Oh, Smokehouse with you here, SmokeHouseStudios.net Front Porch Show. Out here on this Saturday night, January the 19th, 2019. I did it, Chuck.
You had a little bit of help.
I had a little bit of help. And I got to tell you something, friends. Tonight we've got our producer with us as usual, running the scenes, Brother Bennett. And some of the subject matter we're going to be discussing tonight, buddy, fired him up. He said, put me behind the microphone. And we did just that. Brother Bennett is in studio with us tonight. How you doing, Bennett?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. We're going to be looking for your opinion tonight on various things that fired you up, and we're going to get into it in a little bit. So thank you for coming aboard here tonight. Man, we've got a jam-packed program. The last 2 days in the news, man, it seems that politics is melting to the ground. I mean, yesterday morning, we were all hanging our heads thinking that Trump was out. He was out on collusion. He was out on obstruction, that he was out on all of the threats that has been pointed his way. And then last night came around, and we're going to get into all of that. We're going to cover some things in Trump's speech today that he had told us. What does it mean? What does it mean for us in the future? We have Brother Chuck in studio with us tonight. Hello, Chuck. How you doing, bud?
Good, man. Always good to be here.
Well, I am going to make a promise to the listeners, friends. Last week, I got fired up about the wall issue, and after going back and listening to the program, I realized that the second half of the first hour, man, we drug it out over the wall. And that was my fault, and I apologize for that. We'll keep it moving to Wetumpka.
I think it's Wetumpka.
Wetumpka, Alabama. I need to see where that's at.
It's in Alabama, yeah.
Because
I think a church was destroyed there.
Yeah.
They were saying, I don't know. There's kind of going back and forth between. It was like
they said
a Baptist church, and then the other one said it was a Presbyterian church.
Yeah, tell people what has happened. Let me see where that's at. Ooh.
I guess a big storm went through there and a tornado hit it.
Okay, that's just north of Montgomery, Alabama. It looks to be about 20 or 30 miles northeast of Montgomery, Alabama. So prayers for those down there. Yeah, man, pictures are coming in. Massive tornado in this weird weather. We're going to get into that too, man.
Yeah.
Crazy weather. I mean, we've got a snowpocalypse up north. We got 60 degrees here in Nashville.
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, well, better than up there.
Well, before we dive into all that's happening this week, the title of tonight's show is called The Cutting of Root. We're going to jump into Enoch, and we are going to look at what Enoch has described, that these fallen angels that has been sent to the earth back in the day, what they were responsible for, and how we can identify that we are dealing with fallen angel entities right now in the battle that we seek, this spiritual battle. We're going to show you how. And, well, what do you know? Sister Cheryl's on board tonight. I guess Dave Hodges had the night off. We love you, girl. Don't you listen to us.
That's right. He's picking on you.
Chapter 6 in the book of Enoch says, "And when it came to pass, the men multiplied and brought forth the children of men, and they brought forth beautiful daughter, and the angels of heaven began to lust and fall in love with the women of the earth, saying, Let us have children with these women, and let them be our wives. And the fallen angel by the name of Samael was their leader. And for he then said to 200 of the angels, Let us swear of this great sin. See, they knew that this was a sin. The angels went against God, and they went onto earth. And the name of these bad angels were Samuel, Arekaba, Ramiel, Kobiel, Tamal, Ramiel, Daniel, Ezekiel, and Barakal. And there also were chief of 10 Azal. So these were the names. It's almost kind of like Jerry Clower.
Interesting.
You have Arnell, Burnell, Raynell.
It's all part of the same family, right?
Odell, Udell, Marcel.
That way, when you get the name wrong, you get the last part of it right, you're good. You know?
There you go.
One of you owls.
So we have these fallen angels that were kicked out of heaven because we know that Satan wanted to be that of God. So God, he rebelled, and God kicked him out of heaven, and with him came these angels, and these fallen, corrupt, evil entities were cast to earth, and they had sexual relations with the women of the earth, which brought forth the Nephilim, the giants of the day. Okay?
That's the stuff you see, those big pictures with the people standing really tall next to everybody. They're like 15 feet tall. Or Yeah. Pretty crazy.
And so this is the entity that we are dealing with, these fallen angels. Chapter 7 says that they taught mankind many things. Now, listen close, people. What we are experiencing now was taught to the human race when these fallen angels were delivered to the earth. And chapter 7 says, they taught mankind many things, from charms, enchantments, and the cutting of the roots. That's why we titled tonight's program, The Cutting of the Roots. The definition of the cutting of the roots means these fallen angels taught the technology of how to take different plants and put them together to make pharmaceuticals, medication.
Interesting.
Yes. This is fallen angel technology. I ask you a question. What is the biggest issue in forms of big pharma today with the opioid epidemic?
Yeah.
The cutting of the root, the putting together of different plants to form a pharmaceutical drug.
Yeah.
This was fallen angels that taught men how to do this. Taught them charms,
Yeah.
ceremonies, witchcraft.
Well, yeah, it's where pharmakia, witchcraft. So if you think about pharmaceuticals, see, people, I think they discount like words and names. The Bible, in the culture of the Bible, names were very important because they were descriptive of what would happen in that person's life. It's like almost like speaking a word of prophecy over somebody, like what would happen in their lives. So a good name was really important.
Right. And there was
a
meaning.
bad name was really important too, and you didn't want one of those.
And there was meaning behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why people go, oh, well, you're reading stuff into it or blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the thing. All you're doing is you're looking at for what it is. And you know that words have a lot of meaning and importance, as God says they do too. That's why you have to give an account for every idle word you speak, the Bible says.
Right.
So it's like if you're going to have to give an account for every idle word, you'll also give an account for every good word, and you'll also be blessed for every good word you speak. And like I said, conversely, you're going to be given account in a negative way for every idle word you speak. So.
Amen. Well, this is all from what the fallen angels have skewed that God has put in place. And
But what are fallen angels?
Huh?
What are fallen angels?
Well, they're the angels that were kicked out.
But I'm saying they're demons.
Oh,
basically.
exactly. Yeah, they're devils.
So it would be an evil technology or whatever to do
Exactly.
something like that, because really it's a perversion of what something is intended to be.
Mhm.
Like sin is a perversion of what is the good thing that's meant. It's not a people go, oh well, if God created the devil, then He created evil. No, He didn't. The devil's not inherently evil in of himself. He turned away, and that's when.
And He's opposite of God.
Right, and it was a deviation, a perversion, because I had somebody tell me, well, if God's so perfect, why did He create the devil?
Right.
Well, He creates everything good, but it has a choice whether it wants to continue good or go evil, perverted.
Just like in chapter 6 here, where it says that for then the leader of these fallen angels said to the 200 angels, let us swear of this great sin. So they purposely, they know the will of God,
Right.
but they purposely came down and said, now let's swear by these sins. Let's do it,
Wow.
And so you're right. This is pure opposite, purposely done, to skew that. Good call. What God has put together. But He taught these men how to cut the root and made them acquainted with plants. And the women became pregnant, and they bore great giants whose height was of 3,000 ells. I guess, we didn't do the translation on that. In chapter 8 says that the angel Azazel taught humans how to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates, and made them noticeable of different types of metal and the art of working with them. Samaasia taught enchantments and cutting, while Aramus taught the resolving of enchantments, taught how to crush different plants into dyes, taught women how to paint themselves with these dyes to further entice and enhance a sexual type relationship with other men. Okay, that's where I want to hold up for right now.
So you're saying it's evil to put makeup on?
Well,
I'm going to get you a lot of phone calls.
well, we know for a fact this is the fallen angel purpose.
Well, you know what's interesting is you look at the modern makeup movement, and their whole thing is
that's where I'm going.
Yeah, their whole thing is you got to fake it till you make it. Like
Right.
that's what it says. That basically you're not beautiful without makeup.
Right.
That's kind of how they kind of get women to buy their makeup, because they want to convince them they're ugly, and with their makeup they'll look really beautiful.
Well, and over Christmas I came in, and my stepdaughter was watching it was a series on Netflix. It had the Naomi Campbell. She was the model, and it was America's Top Model or some kind of junk like that. And she had been watching show after show after show, and all this was training these women to participate and challenge to be the top model, and had to go through these rigorous events and paint themselves up and lose all this weight and be glamorous and beautiful, and sold their body, so used sex to sell these clothes. And the men, which we're going to get into in a little bit, is what fired Brother Bennett up.
Right.
And all the men on the program were the feminine, homosexual, you couldn't tell the men from the women.
Right.
Even by the way that some of them even looked, man.
Yeah.
Okay? They're pushing all this transgenderism, pushing all of this Bruce Jenner transforming into a woman, and it's a glorious thing. They're pushing this, I hate to sound like Jones here, but this Chi-Com, over there, they will put you to death if you're homosexual or doing any of that stuff. But see, they own Hollywood. They're forcing it down our throats to divide us.
Well, if you think about it, it's pretty clever.
Well, it is clever.
Pretty clever tactic.
But we now see where it comes from, you know? It is the fallen angels who are responsible for this, and people are taking it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is people recognize there's a problem, but the problem with them recognizing the problem is they're not really recognizing the actual problem. Like they're recognizing, okay, there's problems here. There's women, the women being abused, being, used. And so they recognize kind of part of the problem, but they don't recognize that the solution to them is not what the actual solution is. They're recognizing a part of the problem, but not really the whole problem because they don't recognize the spiritual side to it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't recognize it's almost like they see there's a problem, but they're blaming the wrong thing. They're saying, well, if men just act more like not like men, but their idea of what a man is just a selfish jerk, self-absorbed, perverse. That's their whole idea. So instead of attacking the perversion, they'll attack the man.
Right.
Like don't be a man, basically. The man's the problem.
It's not
the behavior.
Get into
right.
toxic masculinity
exactly.
in a moment.
Well, and that's why they say that. They're blaming the wrong, kind of like people blaming white people for all the problems in the world, saying it's a bunch of white people that are causing all the problems. It'd be like me going into an area that might be kind of rough and say, oh, if there was a bunch of black people living here, it wouldn't be like this. Well, it's not. It has nothing to do with skin color.
Right.
It has everything to do, like, Martin Luther King said that, a dream that people would be judged by the, part of the dream was people would be judged, by the content of the character and not by the color of their skin. And there's so much wisdom to that because he recognized, that it was a problem of the heart was the problem. It wasn't the skin color doesn't make any difference. Everybody has their own, like the black community has their, some similar struggles with white community. We all kind of in different ways struggle with this, the basic same things, of the heart struggle. But, there's differences there. Like there's, you see TV, they're constantly have just black people on there committing crimes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and that conditions your brain. Oh, well, if somebody's black, they must be a criminal. If there's something there, something happened, there's a black person, they must automatically be that's the problem.
Yeah. So
it's just so sad because whether the news realizes it or not, some of them probably do, but some of them, they just know they want headlines. So they're going to throw stuff out there, but the devil uses that and turns white people against black people because they're like, oh, wow, look, they're always there where the crime is. And they're, the areas that are the roughest areas sometimes are predominantly black. So see, that's why it's black people. It's like, no, it's not. Their culture, like I said, they've got unique struggles with this stuff. The black on black crime is really huge compared to, the other, like white on white crime or different things. But, it's just so sad because they make it a racial issue.
Well, a racial issue, but like you're saying, the dumbing down of the man, we can go back in history and all of these corrupt, evil leaders, what have they done? They have come after in Herod's day, kill all of the babies that were the male babies,
right.
That were 2 years old and younger. Mm-hmm. Other cultures, they kill all the men that are the age to be in the army. How many times have we heard when a crooked, evil, vile government, a vile entity, demonic entity wants to take control over a region, over a culture, they start going after the men.
Yeah. And look what's happened in the black community. The devil's really gone after the men, and getting them into other stuff instead of being home taking care of their families.
Well, and
and the ones, there's a lot of really good, I lived here, especially, being here in Bellevue, the apartment complex over here, and there's a lot of really good black guys, that really want to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And I feel so bad for them. I go, man, the whole black community, with the struggles they go through, man, it's really hard because you got all the stereotypes. This is the black man. He must not be, a good person. He must be, a criminal. And I mean, just the stuff that he deals with. And he's a genuinely nice guy. I mean, good man. And he wants to provide for his family. And I just think, man, it's such a, and that's my heart goes out to him, man.
And that's spilling over into all cultures now, regardless of whether, the skin. Yeah, they did start with the black community in the the Hispanic community, but now it's bled out into all facets of culture, regardless of, like you said, the color.
Attacks the men. The devil really attacks men, whether it's in the black community, like you said, the Mexican community. Like you've got a lot of the Mexican community, alcohol's a really big thing, and really white too, South, Southern, no matter where you go, there's an alcohol thing. But, I've been to Mexico quite a few times, and I mean, cervezas, alcohol is a huge thing to deal with your problems. And alcoholism runs real rampant there, just like, in other areas.
Well,
but I'm just saying, like you see the devil using that to attack the men to go to that instead of the Lord. But I'm saying,
that falls in line with like cutting of the root,
right?
Because that was the forming of these things for this
fermenting the alcohol.
There you go,
to get drunk and
for this very purpose,
right?
And so we're seeing where this is coming from. People are we alert to this? What is the issue? Okay, so the main point that I'm wanting to get at with these fallen angels is it all started with the sexual lust of the woman, okay?
Right.
And what are we seeing from this criminal cabal? It's all about the sex trafficking. It's all about the child pedophilia. It's all about sex. And it has been beaten and bred, like you were saying, pornography, using it to destroy the family, to pull apart all of these things. With our TV shows and these model shows pushing sex and drugs down our throat, we can see where it comes from.
Yeah.
And then we move to chapter 9, where it talks about the lawlessness and the godlessness. And Enoch says that lawlessness and godlessness and the good angel Gabriel, Raphael, Michael, and Uriel looked down from heaven and saw much bloodshed and said that the earth made without inhabitant cries the voice of the cryingest up on the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men make their suit, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. And they said to the Lord of his ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, kings of kings, and gods of ages, the throne of thy glory standeth unto all generations of the ages. And it goes on and on. So here we see now this intercession between the good angel and the bad angel. We're starting to see this spiritual battle and what ended up happening. Chapter 10, the plan of God, the prelude to the great flood. This is where I want us to pay close attention to. Now that we see what the fallen angels are all about and what they did when they came to the earth, the cutting the root, the pharmaceuticals, the sorcery that we hear about in Revelations of pharmakia, like you had said.
Yeah.
The sorcery of witchcraft.
It's not the natural stuff.
Right.
It's the pharmaceuticals, which is the unnatural, like the perverting of the
root.
Natural. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, combining two things that weren't supposed to be combined. And now we're seeing not only that, but this witchcraft, this wizardry, the charms and the enchantments.
Yeah.
We're seeing this push for transgenderism, for everybody to be of their own, for the boys to dress up like girls and makeup, and all of this teaching of the women how to paint themselves up to be more pleasable to the man. Now, the plan of God, the prelude to the great flood, then said to the Most High, the Holy and Great One spake, and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech, and said unto him, go to Noah, and tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and it will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is in Dubal, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness. So here we see the fallen angels are put away before the great flood. we read on, and people argue over this. I don't care. But Enoch, Enoch was once in the book of the Bible, and then it was taken out. And many people will not recognize Enoch as a book of the Bible. And we're not here preaching this as biblical proof. We're looking at it as a historical reference, because many people in prophets in the Bible and disciples credited Enoch. So he is very valuable in this, that there is coming a time they will be bound for 4,900 years, and then they would be released. I'm not here to argue when that releasing of these demons are going to be, but we said in last program that 16,000 swine back in 2014 took off running stark raving mad, and they jumped off a cliff and drowned in the sea in China. And I was telling people then, the last time I heard of that happening was Mark chapter 5, when God...
Now to get people's attention.
Right. and those who are awake with an eye to see,
yeah,
they would see that and say, okay, well, has demonic spirits been released? And look at society since that time.
Right.
How far down? How visible now are the tactics of these fallen angels that have been cast away and hidden in the pits for so many thousands of years to now come forth and be released at a certain time, that which is up for debate on when that would be in Enoch's account. But we're seeing all of the tactics the fallen angels have been about now being just drilled into our face. And
it would make sense. It's because of the increase of wickedness. A lot of many are called outside thinking, that would play in line with an increase of wickedness if more demons are running around doing stuff. So,
amen.
Yeah.
So I truly believe that this entity spirit, this demonic spirit now is fully alive and well, and this is the spiritual battle that we are fighting now. The one that Gabriel fought with these entities then is what we, the awake, are fighting now.
Yeah.
Okay. To change gears for a moment, Sister Sherry shot us. They said that when they bore these children, and the women became pregnant and bore great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells. So these giants were 3,000 ells tall. The conversion into this height, 3,000 ells equals 2,132 miles. That is how big these giants were that Enoch is describing. Now, I wanna. This is my opinion. I'm gonna run it up your flagpole. See if you salute. All right.
I'm already kind of going.
If you look around, I have been sent many materials in this, and I'll have to go seek out someone who has more knowledge in this than I do. Have you seen some of these mountain formations that actually look like humans? I mean, they're actually named stuff like, there's a dragon's slide, looks like a dragon tail up in Utah, okay? And, we see very, very interesting formations of mountains.
Yeah.
If you look from afar, just get on Google and look at some of these mountain formations that look like humans. It actually looks like a giant may have just fell back and became fossilized as part of the ground. And I mean, you can actually see, the mountain itself looks like the head. You can see the nose. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so before the flood, things fossilized. After the flood, things decayed.
Right. And we don't even know everything that was alive when the flood happened,
Well, and so the things that were shown in these researches, people were questioning, could these not really be mountains? Could they actually be these giants that died right in their place when the flood came in to kill them all?
Yeah.
And they just fossilized, and there they are. But now the water recedes, we just see them as mountains that could look like humans.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to get off on a...
Well, here's the interesting too, and I didn't really think about this before, is, think about how different the world was back then. Like the ground, minerals, all these things. So, wood, when it's in the ocean, it absorbs all these minerals, and you have what they call the shiplath or shiplaf, how they call it. Mm-hmm. It makes the wood so hard, it almost like petrifies it almost.
Right.
And it makes it really, really strong.
Looks like stone.
You figure if the whole earth flooded.
Yep.
Thinking about this, I'm not a person who studies this stuff, but just thinking about it right now, if all the oceans were touching each other, all of those minerals that would be in the ocean that preserves wood would be everywhere at the same time. So how that would affect a body being flooded if it was down there, and even though it wasn't in there for a real long time, the flood wasn't for a real long time, but then it still took a while for the water to go down once it flooded. But who knows all the stuff that came up when the geysers were shooting water up, and then the water was coming. So water was, to my understanding, it said the reservoirs from the deep opened up.
Yep.
So you had water coming from the ground and the sky.
Right.
And so think about all the minerals that probably came up with the water. And
we find ocean fossils in our Rocky Mountains.
And all these different places, right.
So it stands to reason that if they were 2,000 feet tall and they died, like you said, right in place, and just became fossilized, petrified, part of the ground. Now, friends, we're not trying to get on a tin hat wearing deal. We're just throwing this out there because there's a lot that's being hidden from us, from our government.
Right.
And they are really working hard to hide. Hello.
Well, the devil doesn't want us to know what really happened anyway, because the closer you are to figure out what happened, it gets you closer and closer to a full understanding of the truth. So he's going to block anything, even if it's not like a biblical truth, like a theological one. Anything that's true, he's going to block it, because that's his goal, is to blind everybody. So he doesn't want them to understand anything, because you have some kind of direction when you start understanding stuff.
Right. Well, we're being sent. Friends, go to Mud Fossils on YouTube. It's the Mud Fossils YouTube channel. This person has detailed documentation of what we're talking about. That wasn't part of the show. I just threw that out there because it's interesting now. If we look at the size, we know that Jasher, the book of Jasher, he describes, we know when we hear about the Tower of Babel, we just know that it was the size of a large city. But when Jasher tells that account, who once had a book in the Bible that they removed.
Yeah.
And we've got Joshua and Samuel and Timothy even giving credible reference back to Jasher. Jasher tells us in his account, I'm paraphrasing here, that God destroyed a third of that Tower of Babel, fire from heaven. Meteors possibly.
Right.
And then another third of
volcanic.
it. Yeah, volcanic. Or and the other third of it, he destroyed by swallowing it in the ground.
Oh, wow.
And the third of it that was left, Jasher said that it was a 3-day walk. Just around that 1/3 that was left.
Wow.
Now, back in those days, they could travel on foot 25 to 30 miles a day. So if it was a 3 days journey just around that third, that'd be 90 miles, roughly. So if you add the 2/3 back in place, well, it would be a 3-day walk around that and a 3-day walk around that. So we got 3 90s here. So by Jasher's account, we know that the base of the Tower of Babel was 270 square mile radius.
Wow.
And Genesis tells us that
That's
it was
huge.
Genesis tells us that it was a city. All right.
That they said too, they wanted to set up a thing that would separate them from the whole world.
Yep.
They would go, oh, well, look, here's the Tower of Babel. It's like the most incredible thing anywhere in the world. And that would definitely qualify if it was that big.
Yeah, it would. And so here we have Enoch now giving us the height of these giants. And thank you, Sister Sherry, for sharing the conversion.
Well, you know what's interesting, too? If there were actually people that big, would it also help explain the pyramids? You know, people talked about how the pyramids got to where they're, and they say, oh, it's alien technology. But if you think about it, if there was actually people that big, they could move really heavy stones, because to them it would be a lot smaller than to somebody like us. We'd be like, wow.
Well, and think about this. We know that when the children of Israel were shown the promised land, okay, they said that there are giants over there, and they make us look like grasshoppers. Okay. So all we have been taught throughout our biblical cruise, through our life, is that Goliath was a giant, and he was anywhere from 13 to 14 foot tall.
Right.
So when we hear giants, automatically Satan has put into our mind that they're only going to be 13 foot tall or so.
Right.
But you're not going to look or feel like a grasshopper to something that's only 13 foot tall if you're 5 foot tall.
Right.
You may look like maybe a dog, something the size of a dog, but you're not going to look like something the size of a grasshopper to a giant that's only 13 foot tall, right?
Right.
So is it not possible that when we walk up to a mountain and look up at a mountain, man, we look like a grasshopper?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, here's a thought, too. Demons twist and mess stuff up. Our DNA causes what we're going to do, right? Like how tall we are, what our features are. So if demonic stuff corrupted the DNA, they could make it to where somebody was really big. You know what I'm saying? Because we think, oh, well, how do people get that big? How do people, basketball players who are, 7, 8, 9, I don't know how big the biggest basketball player is, but, 7, 8 foot tall or whatever, like how do they get that big? So you start thinking, there could have been with the demons coming into the women and corrupting the DNA, could have made these people all of a sudden really tall. Like it's possible, even if they weren't born really big, it could have been where after they're born, they rapidly grew really huge.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible that could happen.
Well, and if you listen to Steve Quayle, Steve Quayle talks a lot about Antarctica, how the Nazis and Hitler and all, they all had a lot to do, bases built in the earth there in Antarctica, and a lot of people theorize. Steve Quayle does a whole gauntlet of information on how that these giants, these creatures, that's where they are stored. That's where they are. That at some point in our near future, they're going to resurface, and here we are. And I didn't mean to go down that road.
But it's interesting, though, because I don't ever hear anybody talk about this stuff. Very rarely do they ever dig in at all with something like this. Right. They might say the Nephilim and then talk a little bit about that, but that's pretty interesting.
Well, it is. It really is. Thank you, Sherry, for that conversion of what their height actually was.
Wow.
Because we have mountains that are 2,000 foot tall.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have a lot of mountains that are 2,000 foot tall that look like, people that,
we're such conspiracy theorists.
Well, of course it is. Of course it is.
Anything that's out of the norm is automatically labeled a conspiracy. So that's all right. I'm all right being labeled that. I think it's just interesting to follow these different lines of thinking and the possibilities because, the Bible says, no man has, eyes seen, no ear heard, no heart, mind comprehended what God has prepared for those who love him. Again, when you look at things strictly from the natural, oh, this is impossible. This is impossible. But it's like, when you introduce supernatural into it, there's really not a lot that's impossible anymore. Because there's so many things that we don't understand when the supernatural comes into play, what it can do. So it's like you have to have kind of an open mind to the possibilities, even if you don't have enough facts to go completely down that road. you can't close your mind up and say, well, that's not possible, because you have to be willing to kind of dig in and look and go, well, there's certain things I don't know. And yeah, I guess, and there is possibilities that anything can happen, because given any certain circumstance, there's so many different elements that make up what happens, that if you start altering and changing those things, you almost really can't rule it out that something could happen, because there's just so many more pieces that could make it happen.
Right. And this is a good lead in to where we're going to go when we come back to talk about the things that are going on. Now that we've prepared your mind for the evil that they are putting forth, the transgenderism, which we're going to get to in a minute, that's got Bennett so fired up. He's over there chomping at the bits right now. If you haven't seen the latest Gillette commercial, friends, prepare yourselves. But Steve Harvey, you know who Steve Harvey is?
Oh, yeah. Family Feud, I think, right?
Family Feud. He was a comedian. He's got his own show.
Yeah.
They're pulling him off the air.
Really?
In 2019 at some point.
Is he too masculine or what?
Well, I think it's because of his spiritual belief.
Oh, okay.
And here's what I want to set the stage for, people. Ecclesiastes 1:9, that what has been done will be done again, and what has happened will happen again. There is nothing new under the sun. Here we have now the fallen angels, the things that they have taught people that are really now being shoved into our face. We see giants the size that they were. We have a representation in the actual Bible where the children of Israel said, we look like grasshoppers to these giants.
Right.
And they didn't even want to go in there. But they had Joshua and they had Caleb that said, hey, whoa, ho, we can take over these giants. Do you not know who our God is, the one that delivered us from Egypt? The one that has taken us through the day. Do you not know who our God is? We got God on our side, buddy. We can go in there and conquer the place, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's been done will be done again. We've got these fallen angels and their technology now coming against the saints and those of God. They've already got the world. The world is already consumed by their carnage, okay?
Yeah.
And now we face this spiritual battle that we're going to get into when we get back from the break. Do we have a modern day Joshua and Caleb? Now that we're staring down the barrel of all these things the fallen angels have brought to this earth, many people are saying, we're not going to make it through this. They're going to impeach Trump. We're not going to make it through this. We got judgment coming. We do have judgment coming.
Yeah.
But listen to the modern day Joshua and Caleb. Steve Harvey is going to be losing his career possibly because of his faith in God. Listen to Steve Harvey's response when he was interviewed and asked this question.
They're going to close the door on me in 2019. All that means for me is God has another door for me to open. These people that make these decisions at these networks and stuff, they don't control my life. They control that little piece of section over there. I got the rest of it. I'm God in charge of me. So every door that closes for you in 2019, if you understand that allows for an opportunity for another door to open. Maybe I need some more rest. Maybe I've been working too hard. Maybe this is his way of saying, hey, partner, you're going to slow down. I'm going to help you slow down. I've learned to accept God's will and understand that everything that happens to me for my good and my betterment, because the God I serve didn't bring me this far to leave me. You tell me, why would God lift you to the height that he got you to just to see you fall? That's not the God we serve.
So these fallen angels that we're battling right now, that Enoch gave us their tools, their tactics on how they are coming against us with sex trafficking, with the cutting of the root, the pharmakia. All of these things that we are now being told is what's being used against us. A lot of us are standing there like the children of Israel saying, man, we ain't going to be able to make it through this. But here we have Steve Harvey, the modern day Joshua and Caleb, and say, man, God did not bring us this far just to cut us loose, man.
Yeah.
And friends, this is what I want you to retain right now as we get ready to talk about the things that have happened this week. Because I'm telling you, man, the battle has begun. And there's some things that Trump went over that I want to cover in his little speech today. It appears he's handing an olive branch to the Democrats. Say, hey, I'll do this for the Dreamers if you'll just build the wall. But there's more that he talked about that we're going to get into. It's very, very frightening. Don't be afraid. God did not bring us this far just to turn his back on us. That's why now we need to buckle down.
That's right.
We need to repent. We need to give our lives to Jesus Christ. We need to put on that armor. And friends, it's time to dig your feet in the dirt and get to work.
It's like I tell my mom, come on. Amen.
Amen.
Preach it.
Let's go. Okay, friends, do not go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Smokehouse. To talk to Smokehouse, dial 641-552-9354. That number once again, 641-552-9354. And enter access code 252380, followed by the pound sign. Call in and join the show.
SmokehouseStudios.net. God is among us. The door to the ark is slamming shut.
1 Thessalonians 5:3. For when they shall say, peace and security, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape.
The borders of 1967, that will live in
peace and security.
The lesson of history is that peace and security do not come easily.
Peace and stability that people on all sides long for.
2 states for 2 peoples living side by side in peace and security is not a vague slogan, but a real necessity for the stability in the entire region.
Israel and Palestinians, they can live side by side in peace and security. This is our vision, and this is our commitment.
Of a new deal, peace and security and friendship.
My hopes and dreams for Israel are to live in peace and security.
2 states living side by side in peace and security. True security for all Israelis. We will also pursue peace between Israel and Lebanon.
In peace and security.
Israel and Syria.
Peace and security.
And a broader peace between Israel and its many neighbors. Must decide whether we are serious about peace and security. To recognize Israel's legitimacy and its right to exist in peace and security. That's how we will find new pathways to peace and security. That is the work that we must do.
In peace and security.
Peace and security and coexistence.
A movement towards peace. If we have this triangle, economy, security, and peace, then peace can succeed.
Our government is talking now about peace and security. Peace and security with Israel. Wake up, people.
Okay, so as we were talking, all of this demonic entity, and hello Aunt Jackie, she's tuning in tonight as well, buddy. We got all the pews filled tonight. And I tell you, with everything that's happening this week, you couple it with all this demonic activity that's going on where they're trying to remove men from our society. The demasculating of the men in society. They're pushing homosexuality. You know, they're pushing for the woman to be in control of the household, and for years they've been working on that. I can think of TV show after TV show where the man is the dumb one, the dumbing down of men, and now they're pushing this toxic masculinity junk that is going on in our world today, and how men need to not be so aggressive now, you know?
Right.
You know, I mean, I was coming down the stairs while I was on vacation a few weeks ago. And you know our career, man.
Yeah.
You've got to kind of be bold in our career. You got to you got to fight for what's yours because they try to take advantage of you.
Right.
In your pay, short you a load here or forget to write down that you hauled this load there. And when you catch it, man, you got to go in there and stand firm and be like, "Hey, man, I hauled this load. Here's my logbook. I want my pay."
Right.
And if you're not like that, they'll just go on like, you didn't haul it and too bad about you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or they'll put you in some funky, ugly truck, or not ugly, but funky, falling apart vehicle, as long as you'll take it.
Right.
They'll beat you half to death driving off the road. We drive a concrete truck and, we driving a concrete truck, you're going to get into older vehicles, especially when you're just starting and, it takes a year or two, but some of these trucks, they're pretty scary, man. I'm thinking, man, if they let people drive these on the road, if I knew half of that when I was driving around concrete trucks, I'd keep my distance, especially the ones that are old or uglier looking like the one I got right now.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's just, you have to put your foot down when something gets so junky. Like, hey, dude, this is dangerous. I'm not driving it.
So we have a career of this where we've got to be, and I don't want to say manly, I just say you've got to be bold. And
you got to be
stand firm.
It's a tough element you got to deal with.
If you don't, you're going to get eaten alive. Well, I guess I carry that everywhere I go. I don't like to be taken advantage of, and if I feel that I am, I will speak out. And so I just came bouncing down the steps like I always do, and the girls had bought these fancy dresses for New Year's Eve that they were going to go out in, and I wanted to see them on,
Right.
And so they were down there still in their sweat breeches, putting on makeup, and I'm like, when are y'all going to put the dresses on, man, and they looked at me like, well, you're being aggressive. I said, what? Aggressive? I just asked you a question.
Right.
Well, you didn't have to be so loud. And I was like, I wasn't loud. I just asked a question, you know? And it's been bred into these kids, okay, to look at men that way as being the aggressor.
Right.
Well, the latest Gillette commercial, if you have not seen it, go look at it. Talks about basically toxic masculinity being an issue.
They call it toxic masculinity.
Yes, and it's an issue now. If you're any form of a man, if you have not pulled your backbone out of your back and cowered down and started being a little yes man and acting all feminine, then you're a toxic masculine, and they're trying to rid the world of toxic masculinity. And they go through and talk about the Me Too movement and all of these things that are surfacing that aggressive men are responsible for.
Right.
And then at the end of the commercial, it says basically what it's posing is men with facial hair are aggressive.
Right.
You're aggressive, Chuck. You're scaring me, Chuck. And they say, you know, during the commercial, basically tone down your masculinity, be a little yes man, and then shave your facial hair to be less aggressive looking.
Right.
That's basically the commercial. That's my interpretation of the commercial.
Well, you know, we were kind of talking about that. It's interesting because they recognize a problem, you know, because there is a problem with men taking advantage of women and,
exactly.
and joking about, you know, women, you know, oh, well, look at her backside, or, you know, and howling at women and doing stuff that's just really not, you know, it's demeaning. You know, it's one thing to approach a woman and say, you know, you look very nice tonight, or you look very beautiful. But it's another thing to go, man, look at that backside, or like, you know, say something, you know, that's just really, it's just disrespectful and rude.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there are things that is, I think, more of a, I guess if you want to call it toxic masculinity, or like just being rude, you know, that's the way I just think it's easier just to say it, call it for what it is, than to make up, you know, names for what it supposedly is. And plus it helps you to recognize rude speech versus toxic masculinity. See, you got to just find what's toxic masculinity. You kind of have to do that with when you say something is rude too, but usually most people know what rude is.
Right.
Or toxic masculinity, what is that?
Right.
And you just see toxic and masculinity.
Right.
So you think, oh, well, masculinity is toxic.
And then,
that's kind of what you get from that.
And then what did they do? Okay, then they want men to be all feminine and homosexual, have like this unisex, everybody being the same, where you can't tell the men from the women. And when I go to places where these millennials are working, sometimes I can't,
Yeah.
And now, if you can't, if you have not taken the pill and be like, well, you better adhere to the new way of life and you recognize me as what I am, well, then you're the aggressor now. You're being aggressive, and it just infuriates me how what I'm getting at is, I'm getting back to this fallen angel technology.
He's on a soapbox.
Yeah. I'm getting back to this
fired up.
The way of the following angel to turn everything upside down and backwards from the way God has intended it.
Yeah.
But it is the movement that was going on back in the day when they were killing all of the male babies, getting all of the males out of the way, so that a tyrannical government, a tyrannical spirit, tyranny can come in and overwhelm the masses because there are no men with backbones to stand up and fight against it.
Right.
To stand up and fight against it. Now, not only are they doing that with the men, they are also doing this with gun control. We talked about up there in Washington State, where the sheriff up there in Washington is refusing to enforce a new law on gun control,
right?
Because the Maryland law, the red flag law, where somebody can just say, well, I think he's going to commit a crime. Well, that gives the police now in Maryland the right to go in and take your firearms. And when they did in this one instant in Maryland to a 60-some-odd-year-old man, he was like, you're not getting my guns. I didn't do anything. I'm not getting due process. Too bad. Here's the law. Somebody called in on you. So we're taking your guns. And he ended up getting shot because he wouldn't give up his guns.
Yeah.
Washington State is passing a new law now of the same way, the red flag law, okay, where they can just, somebody call in, Chuck, I think you're going to commit a crime. Okay, they're going to come take your guns.
Well, they can't get rid of the Constitution.
Well, that's
their way of doing it. It's like, kind of like Trump. They can't get rid of Trump. They're going to try, but what they're going to do is they're going to, put all this money into state level races, trying to get people in there that won't enforce the law.
Right. And so,
or make up different laws.
The sheriff is saying, I'm not going to enforce this law. It's unconstitutional.
Right.
All right.
The sheriff can do that.
He can.
Right.
Yes, he can. And so this is now the new law taking effect now in New Jersey on gun control. And Oliver North was being interviewed about this new law in New Jersey. Check this out. See, they're chipping away. They're feminizing the men so the men won't stand up and be bold.
Right.
They're accomplishing it.
Yeah.
Okay. And now they're going after the guns. And this is how they're chipping away at it with the red flag law in Maryland, the red flag law in Washington, and the latest here in New Jersey.
I want to get your take on what's going on in my home state of New Jersey. And that is the governor, Phil Murphy, signed into law a ban on all magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. So high capacity in New Jersey is over 10 rounds. But our friends over at Breitbart reached out to the state police and asked them, well, how do you plan to enforce this? Are you going to go house to house? Which they refused to rule out. Now they've come back and clarified and said, well, we have no plans to go house to house, but they still won't tell us how they plan to enforce the ban.
Well, I think what they're probably going to end up doing is they're going to start offering rewards for turning in your neighbor or the angry kid who's mad at mom or dad. I mean, this is the kind of thing that happens when elections don't go the way they should. I mean, elections have consequences. And what Governor Murphy is doing now is what the extreme left wants to do. They're going to begin with magazines, and you can count on the fact that somewhere in America, somebody's going to look at this as, quote, model legislation and do it in another state. And pretty soon it becomes a national movement. Let me just describe one of the things that has happened with some of these kinds of ideas. Not that they're all bad ideas. It's just that the implementation of them becomes a bad deal. In November, the police showed up in Maryland and to seize the firearms because a relative had called in that Mr. Willis was a danger to himself or others. So without any warning at all, at 5:30 in the morning, they come banging at the door. He shows up at the door with a firearm. A lot of us would do that if somebody's banging on your door at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And as he opens the door, he sees it's the police, sets his firearm down. They tell him that they're there without any warning, without any notice in advance. They're there to confiscate all of his firearms. At that point, he picks up his firearm and a shot goes off. In the end of it, he's dead. They killed him in the process of trying to seize his firearms. Now, I don't know how it's all going to be adjudicated. Ultimately, this is the kind of thing that we really need to be prepared to deal with if we're heading in the realm of confiscation.
So there you have it. You feminize all the men where they have no backbone, no boldness to stand up, take away all the guns, and then bam, you got it. Now, our producer has made it back. He's busy turning knobs and flipping switches. Let me ask you, Bennett. I mean, just seriously, what do you are you seeing this feminization of men and boys? What do you do in your spare time? Do you like to get out and play war with like sticks and stuff like that? Oh, you don't. Let me turn you up. What kind of stuff do you like to do?
I'd normally get on like Xbox Live or something. And
but what kind of games do you play on Xbox? I mean, are some of them war games?
Yeah,
battles.
A lot of them.
Okay,
like every man for himself with guns.
Right, and it don't make you want to be a serial killer or anything, does it? And so when you do this, you're not going to go out and bully somebody out in public or in school, are you? So let me ask you a question. How do you see all of this, man? I mean, because, you're a country boy. You're raised to be a man. You're being taught to be a man. Give us your opinion from someone your age about when you see things like this.
I really don't think that video games are the problem for like school shootings and stuff. Like, I like shooter games and violent games. I don't like them because they're violent. I like them because they're challenging and they're fun.
Challenging and fun. Teaching you strategy, right? On how to deal, with life when you meet opponents like that. Not necessarily a shoot 'em up, but in a situation to where you've got to make a decision. I see danger ahead of me. What do I need to do to defend myself and my family, correct? Well, how does that influence you now when you see boys? The latest deal, a 10-year-old boy, a boy a year younger than you now, dressing up like a woman, having his picture made with a naked transgender man, and the left just praises that to the high heavens. Okay? And you think to yourself, really? I mean, really? That would be considered pornography 10, 20 years ago.
Now, what does that make you think when you hear of a kid dressing like a girl like that?
A boy dressing like a girl.
Yeah, boy.
It just sounds stupid.
Makes no sense, does it? See, he's not drinking the Kool-Aid. All right. He's giving me the motion. He's got to get back to work. Thank you, Brother Bennett, for your insight there, hero. Appreciate it. Okay, so we're seeing their tactics.
Yeah.
We know where it's coming from. Okay. Now, Trump came out because he had a speech today about the wall.
Right.
And he had a speech the other day about the wall last weekend. And, or last Friday, I think it was, Friday evening. And, depressed everybody. We thought, national emergency was going to be implemented and he was going to defeat the Democrats and go ahead and build the wall, but nada. He just talked about the fight and threw it right back into the ring.
Well, I wonder, though, if he did declare a national emergency, if they would have used that against him somehow. Like, I think, but I'm saying, I think his thing is he wants to really, like you said, really show them for who they are, even though most people are aware, I think, at least in my circles, of what's going on. But I think, like you said, he wants them to fully show their hand just how bad they really are and just how self-absorbed, self-aggrandizing people they really are. They're just very self-centered, self-seeking. Mm-hmm. It's all about me and my ideas, and I don't care what you want, and it's all about the Trump wall. They keep saying it's Trump's wall. It's what he wants, and even though they're the hypocrisy, double tongue, when they just spoke it a couple of years ago saying that we needed wall, we needed protection.
Knowing good and well that they weren't even going to do it.
It makes me wonder, but also makes me wonder if it's consistent with what they're saying now, they really didn't even believe it then. So it's not that they're hypocrites, they're just liars. Yeah, I guess that must be better because they're just liars. Right?
That's another thing he's trying to show, that they're just bold-faced liars. But to me, there comes a point when you need to put your foot down and say, okay, enough of the shenanigans, national emergency, go back to your room, play with your toys, we're going to get to work.
Yeah.
Okay, with that being stated, he came out in this speech today and basically, in a nutshell, said, okay, I'm going to extend an olive branch here. If you will just work with me, I'll give your dreamers whatever they want if you'll let me build a wall. Okay? Right. I think like you said, I think he did that knowing they're not going to give him his wall just because he's Trump and because they're profiting on all the things that are coming across the border. We know the New York Times has now put out an article a few days ago stating that, yes, this is a coup against Trump with what Mueller and all of them are doing. Mm-hmm. The FISA documents can be released at any time, at a time Trump so chooses. But he had some interesting points that he covered, and I want to go over. And this is important. We've got another crew of illegals ganging up. 25,000 coming now?
Yeah, they're saying it's larger than the ones that have already come through.
And there is just what we have been hearing, that this group now is being given weapons. Steve Quayle talks about these cargo planes that are from China that are flying in and delivering weapons to these people.
Wow.
I can't verify that. I'm just repeating what is being said here. But it's interesting, these 6 points that Trump brought up, I want to cover, that he spoke about today. Mm-hmm. The main focus on this was to defend against any missile. The defense of our country. The strength of our country. And here's his 6 points. Number 1, he wants border security, and we are going to have it, is what he said. And he says that the party has been hijacked by the radical insane left, and that they don't want security. They only want, like you said, socialism, communism. They want to bring us down.
Yeah, they want more people to come in that they can control.
Exactly.
And they want to use the other people to cause us to be controlled.
Exactly.
They're controlling them to do it, so they're a bunch of control freaks, basically.
Exactly. And he mentioned that he wants to stop human trafficking. He wants to stop the drugs. And he wants to implement, here we go again, a missile defense policy. He wants 20 ground-based missiles in Alaska. Keep that in mind. Number 2, he wants to develop technology, because he said that Iran has failed at an attempt to use a space technology to attack. And he wants to do this against our enemy. He wants to protect against, he wants to develop this.
That's why he's talking about the Space Force.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting enough. Number 3, he wants to protect the American people on a missile attack. Cruise and hypersonic defense is what he is saying we need to defend ourselves against. And I'm sitting here thinking, now, wait a minute. why all this talk about missile attack and this and space technology attacks? And so these laser weapons that are hitting California and hitting New York, is he trying to summons to us that, hey, this is where we're being attacked and we need to defend ourselves not only against the border, but against these things? And he said, number 4, that he wants to recognize space as a new domain. Yeah. He said a big part of our defense is to be on the offense.
Yeah.
He wants to terminate any attack, is what he said, under his 4th point. And then he said that there are very, very bad players out there. And he wants to remove, of course, bureaucratic obstacles. And he said in that part that the stronger that you are, the less you need to use that strength.
Right.
So not
Peace
only
through strength.
Right. So not only does he want to strengthen our borders, he wants to strengthen us from outside of attack. Mm-hmm. And he really emphasized missiles. He wants to remove bureaucratic obstacles, and he wants the burden of all this to be shared by our allies, which is understandable.
He doesn't want us paying for everything.
Exactly. And he's talked about how we protect rich countries, so it's time for them to start paying their fair due.
Right.
And he went into trade with many nations. So all of this was also on top of this border wall that he's wanting to build.
Right.
But he focused more or a lot on missile attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have some sort of weapons attack looming in our near future?
You remember that guy who called in from the military when they took him back in? So that's it's starting to make more sense.
Right.
What's being said, even though he couldn't share more than what he shared, he was very concerned about some type of threat. And if what you're saying is true about the caravan, what this guy is alleging, that that they have weapons, and if China really is getting involved, they have some pretty incredible technology. Yeah. So I'm saying, there could be a coordinated attack between this caravan coming through and something that China has up their sleeve they're wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, see, this is why it's not hard. So people go, oh, well, you guys are crazy, conspiracy theorists. Like, we just pay attention to what's going on in the world, and we're trying to put pieces together. And I just look at it like this. If you only know one thing, the heart of man is desperately wicked beyond all things, who can know it? And you know what men long for, worldly men who don't know who God is, the satanic nature, the sin nature, is to steal, kill, and destroy. And the whole goal is to rule. Like, that's what the devil's goal was, to rule. Like, he wanted to be God in heaven. He wanted ultimate control. So the wicked leaders of our nation and other nations, I'm not talking about Trump, but I'm saying like the people within our government, the people that are the bad ones, and then in the other governments, their whole goal is to control.
Mm-hmm.
They're at the top. They're at the height of their game in their country. Well, the next step is controlling everybody around you. So to me, I'm going, well, gosh, this is not hard to believe that this could be happening. This is what's going on, because the heart of man is never satisfied. So the higher they go, the higher they want to go. So it's like when I look at these things, I'm like, is this really that hard to believe that this could be happening with what you know? Just use your brain.
Yeah.
You know the way God said that we are. Our heart is desperately wicked, and man always wants to rule. The more they rule, the more they want to rule. When they're led by sin, not by God. When they're led by God, they want to submit to God. They want to be a leader to take care and help other people. They want to use their good or their influence to help other people. Like you and I, Greg, we want to protect our families. We want to use our strength that God gave us. We want to get stronger to protect our family. But people who don't know God, they want to get strong for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
So,
And they're doing it, we can see, that's why I opened the show with this fallen angel technology.
Yeah.
They're doing it that way, so we know what entity it's coming from. With that being stated, we know that all of these organizations that is funded by Soros and in the deep state, they are all building Antifa for a big civil unrest.
Right.
It's been proven. This week Alex Jones has been warning of a major outbreak of this if Trump pulls rank and does declare a national emergency. All out chaos is going to break out. And with Trump,
and that may be one of the reasons why he hasn't, because
he knows that's coming.
Right. So I think he's getting everything in place, like the military and everybody kind of getting him in place, because when you fight, it takes time to assemble everything.
Oh yeah.
So, and especially the bigger the battle, the more time it's going to take to get everything ready. So there's a lot. I mean, you got to remember all the people that are angry at us and that want, China.
Well, that's just
Russia.
it.
Like you got all these things going on. So you got a huge, massive global game plan.
And this missile attack is what is really he kept pushing.
Right. He kept talking about it.
And it's we know. Okay. Here is their goal. Before I get into the article about this BuzzFeed deal that just totally last night just
sank them. If there was any part that wasn't sank already, it sank.
But all day long, the news media was reporting on this BuzzFeed story. And if you're unfamiliar with what that story is, which you if you've even turned on a TV, you're probably well aware of what it is. But it is the fact that Cohen has said they had some informants that told BuzzFeed, Cohen said that Trump was going to build this Russian tower, Trump Tower in Russia for Putin to get all these kickbacks so that he could be elected and Putin could get him into the White House. And we have documented emails and everything else to back it up. And so BuzzFeed ran with that story, that we have informants that have told us that this is the case. And all day long, all of the alphabet media stations were saying, this is it. This is the Holy Grail. This is a smoking gun. We're going to be able to impeach on not only collusion, but on obstruction and all of these felonies. And we got him. And then they would say, if this is true, if this is a true story. They were throwing that little nugget out there just to cover themselves should it go awry. And all day long they ran with it until basically 7 or 8 o'clock last night, when someone from the Mueller camp came out and said, well, no, that's not credible information. We do not have any of that material. And it just collapsed like a house of cards, and there again proved that they're fake news. And all these fake news agencies, they're not journalists. They don't go out and go searching the truth. That's why
they quote other sources. That's all they do. I could do the same thing. Click on it and go, oh, so-and-so alleges that this is true.
And say it over and over and over until, you get the society to believe it. And so people, Chris Kahn, who is a liberal dude that's always on like Judge Jeanine and Tucker Carlson, and he's always battling it out with Bongino, right? Well, he came out and he says, well, I have to agree that this is fake news, but I will say this for the Mueller camp. They don't ever speak of what they're doing. So for the Mueller team to come out now and discredit that means that Mueller is really an honest guy and he wants to do the right thing. And Mark Levin had an outstanding point. Why didn't the Mueller team come out the minute that article broke? Why did Mueller wait all day long to let all these news medias just fill people's brains with this, then to come out on a Friday night when nobody pays attention to the news on a Friday night and come out and say, oh, well, it was, we don't have that evidence. It was a fake story. So, was this planned? What was the deal behind it? I don't really know. But all it does is it credits the fact that the media is against the people, that they are running this coup against President
And
Trump.
in some ways, they are the enemy of the American people.
They are. And they're reporting these fake things. So that is what, basically, in a nutshell, the BuzzFeed article was all about. Now, so Trump's warning us about all these attacks that we need to be prepared for, that he wants to strengthen, okay? And if there is a rise up, their plan, here's their plan. Pelosi is Speaker of the House. She's third in line for the presidency.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. Now,
I thought they said she was first in line underneath Trump and...
she's first in line, but right now she would be the third one in line. You got Trump, Pence, and then Pelosi.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, first in line after the president and vice president.
So they have steered this investigation back to Russian collusion, and they've dropped kind of all this other junk that they were going after.
Could that be why Pelosi's resisting Trump too? That she thinks that by resisting, because people that always resist the president, push back, they have like presidential ambitions.
Right. Well, their plan here is if they can steer it back to Russian collusion, which they don't have anything, throw this little nugget out and let the whole nation think that this is legit and get everybody programmed in their mind that, oh my gosh, this is it. Trump's going down. And even his followers and supporters to start falling in line and be like, oh my gosh, Trump did lie to us. And start turning the Trump base against Trump. Then, if they keep it on Russian collusion and then just impeach him, because they've already the House Democrats have already started impeachment, okay?
Yeah.
And can get him impeached on this corruption. If it's Russian collusion and Pence is involved, not only can they remove Trump, they can also remove Pence.
I wonder who, if Pelosi became president, who would be her vice president? Chucky Schumer?
No. So, Nancy Pelosi then...
That's why they're both up there posing,
hey,
resisting Trump, like they're both standing right next to each other?
Could be. I mean, she could choose who her running mate would be or who the vice president would be. Could be Chucky Schumer, or if they're able to remove Trump and Pence under this Russian collusion, open the door for Pelosi to step in as president, Pelosi could then nominate or have a vice president who she chooses. What if she chooses Hillary?
Right.
Hillary then becomes the vice president, and then Nancy Pelosi steps down to go back to be Speaker of the House, and Hillary slides right into the White House as President of the United States, and it's all legal.
Gives me shivers.
It's all legal.
Right.
And there ain't nothing that we can do about it. And then there would be a rising in this nation like you have never seen.
Yeah, you think?
Trump warning us. Here's the article. Trump warning us of all of these attacks that he's trying to protect us from. And here we see this week that those that are rising up against the French government, the French riot police now are using semi-automatic weapons and live ammunition against the protesters in France.
Wow.
And our NSA and all of that has, years ago under Obama, ordered billions and billions and billions of rounds of ammunition.
Right. Why?
So, yesterday, that was the theory yesterday. Okay? But now that this BuzzFeed article has been blown out of the water, now that theory is like...
They were hoping it would work.
Well, I think that they were. Okay, so ask yourself, though, why did Mueller come out, or his camp, and say, we don't have this evidence? Why did they do that? If they wanted to keep that narrative going, you would think they would hold out to the last of the last minute before they would come out with the rebuttal.
Well, I think what it's doing is it's really kind of building the people that are, the brainwashed masses that watch, the small masses, but the most vocal ones. It keeps them holding on to this whole possibility of Russian collusion. That's why it's taking so long and why they're keeping it going. There's got to be something. Why would they go this long with an investigation if they didn't really have a really good feeling that Trump really did collude? Like, why would it go on this long? So the longer they carry it, it's like becoming its own thing. Even though there's no proof, just because you hear it so much that there's got to be something, or else they wouldn't waste all this time doing this. Right. I think that's their whole idea, is that, and they know how to work the people because they've been doing it for years, and they know how to take people out because they've been doing it for years, and they've never really had somebody stand up to this degree that Trump has and pulled all the garbage, got us out of the TPP and there's the Paris Climate Accord, and like nobody's done that. So like all these funding is now stripped from them. They're like, man, we got to get rid of this guy. I'm sure they've tried to assassinate him.
Oh,
probably
yeah.
Tons of times.
More than we know.
We don't even hear about it on the news because they wouldn't tell us. There would be, I guess, in a sense, there wouldn't be any reason to. But I don't know. I just shake my head and just go, man, it's. Truth sometimes is stranger than fiction, because especially when you've got so many moving parts and there's the little pieces of puzzle we have just paint such a huge, grand, incredible story. It's like, it's just incredible, man. It gets everybody, it gets you so addicted to learning about these different details because there's just so much going on that we don't even, the plan, the battle is so epic. That I don't know. It's an amazing thing. It keeps me glued. It's one of the reasons why I continue to read articles, that we're doing this every week, that I show up and talk to you. I would talk about stuff even if this stuff wasn't going on, because I love to talk about the truth about what's going on. But the fact that there's this epic battle going on, it just fuels me to keep coming back.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Okay, so apparently we have hit a nerve.
Why is that?
Because our signal is being manipulated.
Really?
Yeah. People are like, "Where'd you go? I lost you." We're still here, still broadcasting. Here we are.
And it doesn't look like on our computer we've lost anything, does it? Or is it down there?
No. Well, I see. Okay, I see the deal. Yeah, man. Yeah. We have lost audio to our connection feed. Oh, man. Well, here we go.
Producer, we need your help.
Messages are coming in. We have now been kicked off line. We're done.
Wow. Yeah, well, the cool thing is, it just makes me want to continue. Well, I'm kind of stubborn like that. I feel like when somebody starts to kind of, try to push me away, it makes me want to come back stronger.
Right. Yeah. Well, it does. And we've got, apparently our phone lines are still, phone lines are still going, but we have lost the live feed. So
we will continue.
We have a backup because we will just have to post it after. Sorry about that. It's out of our control. But we're the Joshua and the Calebs in the land.
That's right.
Today.
You continue. No matter what the resistance, you continue.
So, read that headline for us, Chuck. And let me answer some messages here, and we'll talk about this.
All right. It says the EU calls for Brexit to be canceled after May's crushing defeat. Council President Donald Tusk says, my eyesight's going. No one wants to deal, and ask who will finally have the courage to say what the only positive solution is. Very interesting. It's amazing how, like, the different countries, even though, like, we're the U.S., all the countries are kind of having kind of the same battle. It's like you have these people that are entrenched in our government, these corrupt people that have been calling the shots for so long, and now they're like, even a lot of, I can't say for the EU, but I know the people, a lot of the people in the EU are saying Brexit needs to happen. That's what was decided, and now these corrupt people are going, no, we can figure out a way to stop this from happening. And it's that whole power struggle with the people in authority, the corrupt ones that are still trying to hold on to that control. They're saying, well, we just won't recognize what you decided because you decided something that we don't agree with because we need to stay where we are because that's kind of our place is to stay here, and we can basically call those shots because we're the ones in control. So we can just decide, well, we're not going to follow the rules anymore because the rules are saying we got to leave. So that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, here's what gives me thought that the deep state now that Brexit has been canceled gives them a leg up.
Right.
They're not going to be pushed out of Europe now.
Right.
Okay, so it's giving them a little bit of strength, a little bit of it's giving them a little bit of attaboy. You're gaining ground again. Just keep on keeping on.
Right.
And
they're depending on people not coming out against it, but just getting discouraged. It's kind of like the devil, trying to say, well, yeah, you might be strong with this, but really you're just a coward, and just kind of, you lost this battle, so, why don't you just give up? Man?
Exactly.
Just try to discourage you because, the enemy tries to attack your heart.
Right.
If he attacks your heart and you just give up, then he's already won without even having to stick you with a sword.
Right. Well, look how serious this is getting, though. This week in Fox News, lawmaker starts packing pistols to send message to potentially violent protesters. Here we have now protesters coming after our officials in government.
Yeah.
A Virginia state senator this week began openly carrying a .38 caliber revolver strapped to her hip, not his hip, but her hip. Praise God.
That's right.
Calling it a deterrent against confrontational protesters and other potential threats. Senator Amanda Chase, a Republican freshman legislator, said she became concerned for her safety Monday after a group of immigration activists confronted her colleague, State Senator Richard H. Black, over his bill to ban sanctuary cities. So the next day, Chase, who claims that she has long held a carry permit, was seen in Virginia State Capitol in Richmond visibly wearing her revolver.
I could see people's heads just exploding.
I got to tell you a funny story. Dad, I had to go to Home Depot and pick up a few items for my ham radio, and so Dad
this
goes,
is gonna be good.
Dad goes with me because he said it's gonna be cold this weekend. I need to pick me up a big old bale of cedar shavings and put it in the barn for the dogs,
Yeah.
Because cedar, it helps, warmth and that barn. I mean, when the dogs go in the barn, they're fine,
right?
Because it stays warm in that. But to have all those cedar shavings in there, plus cedar draws odor out of the dog, right? So it's twofold purpose,
right?
And so we go to Home Depot, and Dad asked the old boy at Home Depot. He said, "Where's your bale of cedar shavings?" And the old boy looked at Dad like he broke wind. What? So we got ready to go home because they didn't have it at Home Depot, and the guy suggested, well, you can go here to the pet store. I bet the pet store would have it.
Mm.
And we're like, oh, yeah, for sure. So, Dad, we leave Home Depot, and we have to drive right by the pet store, we're just right down here before we, So we wheeled in there, and I told Dad, I was like, well, man, I wish I knew we were going here to the pet store. I said, because I'd have open carried today. I said, he said, why? I said, well, it's a very liberal establishment. He said, oh, it ain't. Until we went in there. And then, sure enough, it was. And Dad's like, my gosh, they're everywhere, ain't they? I said, yeah. We ended up having to go to the hardware store to get it. But, I mean, that was a funny story.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So, but here we have it. We have the state congressional people now having to bear arms for protection against these lunatics. Now, here is why I believe, as Sister Sherry had mentioned about the 5G causing a lot of these how they can control us with 5G and attack us, via the new 5G that's coming out. Well, I believe not only in a controlling aspect, but literally frying our brains. And it's been going on not just recently, it's been going on for a long time. On this border issue, this is the perspective that is coming from the left. This is the Ocasio-Cortez
brainless
junk, that's being force-fed down everybody's throat, and they're believing it, okay?
Well, that's the way they get people to believe in crazy stuff, is lobotomizing them, right?
Well, exactly. And so here is not Ocasio, we'll get to her in a moment, but a caller, if you know the Mike Savage show. Now, by the way, they are pulling Mike Savage. He has lost his show. They've moved him from like a 3-hour program down to a 1-hour program.
Yeah, Alex was saying that they're planning on getting rid of him.
And then he's gone in a few months, and they're going to replace him with Ben Shapiro.
Right. That's what I heard.
So they're censoring Michael Savage. Well, listen to one of these liberal callers that called about this immigration issue. This is the thought process to those who have been turned over to a reprobate mind.
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of them on Facebook and listening to them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Check this out.
Let's go to Boca Raton, Florida. She's on the other side. Joe in Boca Raton, welcome. You say the Arizona law is wrong. Is that correct?
Yes, I think it's absolutely racist that they're telling the illegal aliens that they can't come into Arizona. They can do what they want to. I mean, we're America. We have to have open arms.
Wait. You're saying too many things at once. They're saying what?
That we need to have...
You're saying... Wait, ma'am. Are you aware of the fact that a country has borders? Are you aware of that?
I'm saying that we need to get rid of our borders so we can welcome all forms and walks of life.
Of course, you're pulling my leg.
I'm serious. Just look at how your ancestors got here.
Well, they didn't come here illegally. Maybe yours did. How did yours get here? Did they come here illegally?
I don't know, but they got over here somehow, and now.
Well, apparently they pulled from the lowest level of the gene pool from where you came from. That you don't even know how a nation is defined. How many people do you think this country could sustain with open borders? Is there a limit, an upper limit in your mind?
I think we could sustain so many people because there's capitalism.
I said how many? How many people are in America today? How many millions?
600 million.
Oh, my God. Oh, boy, we're in trouble, aren't we? So you just guessed at that, I could see, because that's not the correct number. Okay, we'll give you another chance. How many people do you think the United States of America could sustain if we had no borders and anybody could just enter the country? How many people?
We need to put limits on people's income because people are making way too much money, and they need to...
So, in other words, it's not the number of people here, it's the amount of money people are making.
Yes, it's the greed in America. We need to spread that out.
How much money do you make a year, Joe?
Nothing. Right now I'm on a welfare check, but that doesn't matter anymore.
You're on a welfare check. That's why you're so benevolent with other people's money. So you're telling men like me who work for a living, who pay your welfare check, that I should be limited in how much I make so you can make more money doing nothing?
Well, I think that you don't pay my welfare check. I think Obama pays my welfare check. And
Wait, what do you mean? Obama pays it out of his pocket? Where does Obama get the money from, Joe?
I don't know his stash. I don't know where he gets it. But the main thing is...
What do you mean you don't know where he gets it from? It's called the public treasury. Where does the money come from into the public treasury, Joe?
Illegal aliens who work for a living and then they pass the money to the government.
Joe, you're a very sick person. I really pity you, Joe. And you never should have been able to get on the show because a man wants to find hell as a place where there is no reason. And you just dragged me into hell, Joe.
But this is the mindset, man.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, this is the mindset.
Wow.
Now,
I didn't realize that our country is funded by illegal aliens.
I didn't either.
Who pay all this money.
I didn't either.
It's like I've been living in La La Land, I guess.
And I didn't even know that.
I didn't realize Obama paid for everything.
I didn't.
What
either.
a great guy.
and I didn't realize that our meat came from a store either. But apparently our hamburger and steaks come from a store.
How crazy, man!
But this is the mindset.
Wow.
And you question why you cannot reach these people, especially with the truth, because if they are so absorbed with this type of lie, I mean, come on, man. All right. So in getting on and keeping into the same subject of the mindset of the radical leftists, Ocasio-Cortez, man, raising Cain because Mitch McConnell could not be found. So she and a few of her cronies went on a mission to go look for Mitch McConnell. Raising Cain, that they went into this office, they went into that office, and he was nary to be found. Not even considering that they were in the wrong building.
That's funny.
Can you believe that? Check out this lunacy, okay?
Roving out to the Senate side, because the thing is, we went to his office in the Capitol, we went to his office here in the Russell Building, we went to the floor, we went to the cloakroom, he's not in the cloakroom, he's not in the Capitol, he's not in the Russell Building, he's not in the floor of the Senate, and 800,000 people don't have their paychecks. So where's Mitch? And just my question.
They couldn't find him because those lawmakers went to the wrong office. McConnell works out of the majority leader's space in the Capitol, which the lawmakers would have needed to pass on their way to the Senate side to try to make their point. And McConnell's folks say they had no advance notice.
In the wrong part of the building, man. Wow.
It's like these people who, like this woman who called in to Savage's show, her mind is in the wrong building. It's like, it's like the building of La La Land and the building of reality. It's like, it's crazy because, the Bible says, that every person will believe what they want to believe. And that's this woman, in order to say what she said, she's just believing what she wants to believe. How many people live in the United States? She says 300 million people. Just randomly, this is what I think it is, and doesn't matter if I'm not obviously not researched it, but I'm not gonna say I don't know exactly how many people, or I have no idea. They're gonna say 300 million people. Okay, well, who do you think pays your welfare check? Obama. Oh, what do you think he gets that money? Illegal immigrants. It's like, dude, you really believe that? Like, she said, man. The debate, the comment about being in hell was a place where there's no reason. It's like it really. I guess you could almost say that because when you're talking to somebody who is just completely clueless, but is okay with being clueless and doesn't even want to know what the truth is. They just, this is what I believe, and I don't even care. I don't care that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm okay just believing whatever I want to believe. And you see, the Bible talks about that.
They be given a strong delusion.
Exactly. And they're okay with it.
And they're okay. And they're delusional. That's the thing about it. When the Bible says they will be given a strong delusion, they're delusional.
Right.
I mean, they're not even firing. Some people make the comment that you're not firing on all cylinders. Well, they not only are they not firing on all cylinders, they've got the wrong gas in the tank, man. I mean,
it's crazy, man.
Well, Chuck, this stuff has now spread to the churches.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you heard about this church in Pennsylvania. It's a Methodist church. It's got a gay preacher now, mind you, who says that white supremacy is the problem. See, so not only are they going after the aggressive male aspect, now they're going after the color of white in men.
Right.
And the church is following suit. Now check out what he says and keep in mind now. Just listen.
A St. Petersburg church is starting a bit of an uproar over a controversial political sign. And this is not the first time this church has caused a stir. News Channel 8's John Rogers joins us now live outside the Allendale UMC with the latest. John.
Good evening, Jen. This is the sign in question here. It says white supremacy is the real crisis. It's meant to be a scathing criticism of Donald Trump's border wall plan, but many feel that the church has no business getting involved with politics. Outside Allendale United Methodist Church, Pastor Andy Oliver used his sign to draw attention, not to his congregation, but to a political issue.
We really wanted to respond to our president, who is taking this opportunity to manufacture a crisis at the border.
In the midst of this border wall dispute, Pastor Oliver wanted to extend a message of love and acceptance to counter what he believes is a racist ideology.
Targeting people of color, making them the enemy. Things like walls are symptoms of misdirected fear.
Many residents have taken to Facebook or made phone calls to the church expressing outrage. They say this only causes further division in the community.
Churches have to be careful getting mixed up with politics. They divided the churches from the government. They had their reasons for that, okay?
Allendale UMC has a history of political messages. The sign has even been vandalized.
You know, we're going to get attacked, but we have to stand together as a community because we know that we're doing the right thing for everyone.
Ultimately, Pastor Oliver feels this is something the church is called to do.
Jesus was one that wasn't afraid to speak truth in situations and to be present where people were hurting and being oppressed.
Pastor Oliver points out that today is the 90th birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he says that MLK fought really hard against racist attitudes. That's all that he's doing here. Live in St. Petersburg, John Rogers, News Channel 8.
And that just keeps on coming, man. And Jude warned us. He said, "Dear friends, although I was very eager to write to you about the salvation that we share," meaning I was just going to sit down and kind of summarize the plan and all that and what Christ had in store for you. Jude said, "I felt I had to write and urge you to contend for the faith that was once for all entrusted to the saints." He said, man, I was just going to sit down and just kind of chill out and summarize it. Man, something grabbed a hold of me and told me to urge you to contend for the faith. Why? Ask me why, Chuck.
Why?
Well, Jude says, for certain men whose condemnation was written about long ago have secretly slipped in among you. They are godless men who change the grace of our God into a license for immorality and deny Jesus Christ, our only sovereign Lord. And though you already knew all this, Chuck, I want to remind you that the Lord delivered his people out of Egypt, but later destroyed those who did not believe. You know, what were we talking about?
Yeah.
All of those children of Israel that were like, we can't go in there. We can't do this. Well, Joshua and Caleb said you could.
Right.
But these people, these entities, this spiritual battle, these people have snuck in unaware, and it's in our churches.
Yep. And it's crazy because that's why it's so important. Another example why it's important to know the truth. Because when you know the truth, it doesn't matter who comes to you saying this bogus stuff. If pastor, has the title of pastor, doesn't make him a pastor, but as the title of pastor, will come to you and say, well, this is the truth. This is the truth. This is what Jesus did. He stood against, people trying to harm people and being racist. And so that's their new call tag for sin is racism.
Mm-hmm.
It's racism. It's not, if you don't believe this, you're a racist.
Right.
Like that's, and they've been kind of saying that for a while, but now it's like, now you're a toxic masculine. Now you're racist. Now you're like, they got all these buzzwords like BuzzFeed, they got all these buzzwords, to say that, kind of demonize you and make you into this bad person. And it's interesting because that older gentleman on there said, what did he say? He goes, there's a reason they separated church and state. And
mm-hmm.
the crazy part is, he's bought into the lie that there's the difference between politics and life. And it's okay to separate truth and politics and truth and life because they're completely different.
Mm-hmm.
This is a political problem. It's not a truth problem. It's a political problem. So now that we have the politics, now we don't need to talk about that, whether it's true or a lie, because it's a politics. So now that's another tactic of the enemy. And we kind of talked about that. It's not a truth problem, it's a politic. So we don't need to get involved with politics in church. So even though this is a lie, you can't talk about it because it's a politic. So there's a reason the government separated the church, or, they said the law that church can't be talking about political stuff. So it stands by itself to be its own thing. Like it can make up its own morality. The church needs to stay out of it. So
that's right.
So the politicians will let you know what's right and what's wrong. The church can't, because the church is separate.
Exactly. And we need to stand up. We as Christians, just like Sister Sherry said, we as Christians need to stand up and do exactly what Jude said, because here is the time that we are.
You said contend for the faith.
Contend for the faith,
You have
the
to,
true faith in Jesus Christ. Do not cower down. Do not be tolerant.
Do not say God is in control. He'll take care of it. Yes, he is in control. He will take care of it. And you're the person he's going to use to do it.
That's right. We have Christ in us, and we are to not cower down and lose our Christian masculinity.
It just said contend for the faith.
Exactly.
That's what it just said. What does that mean? Does that mean sit back and let God do it all? He will do it all, but he uses you to do it. You're
Right.
one of the people he uses.
And, well, look here, Chuck. Let's just go on through here. I need to get to this latest peace treaty deal before we close. Let's see here. We hadn't gone to the phones in a while. We need to go to the phones here in just a second. Let's see here. We are to contend because, though you already know this, I want to remind you that the Lord delivered his people out of Egypt, later destroyed those who did not believe. And the angels who did not keep their portions of authority, but abandoned their own home, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on that day. These are the very people, these entities, these are the ones that we talked about with this fallen angel technology, how the fallen angels, as we open the show, are using this technology against the saints right now. And Jude warned us about this, man. All right. In the very same way, these dreamers polluted their own bodies, rejected authority, and slandered celestial beings. Jude is talking about what we opened the show with. Michael, when he was disputing with the devil about the body of Moses, did not dare to bring slanderous accusations against him, but said, "The Lord rebuke you." Yet these men speak abusively against whatever they do not understand. They speak against the things that they do not understand.
Right.
That's one way that you can identify these people. Just like this Methodist church. That guy don't understand the truth in God's word.
Right.
Jude says that these, okay, and here we go. Listen up close. Let's see. Who do not understand, and what things they do not understand by instinct, like unreasoning animals. These are the very things that destroy them. Woe to them! They have taken the way of Cain. They've taken the way of Cain. They have rushed for profit into Balaam's error, and they have been destroyed by Korah's rebellion. Okay. What did Cain? Cain killed Abel, right?
Right.
Okay. What about they have rushed for the prophet into Balaam's error? What did Balaam do? Balaam was a prophet, right?
Yeah. He got paid money to prophesy against the people of God.
Exactly. He was prophesying these things. Basically, said, the people's going to listen to you, so tell them this.
Right.
And that's what...
He was supposed to be the truth teller.
Right.
He decided to not tell the truth.
He decided to not tell the truth. And how did God correct him? With a donkey, with an ass.
That angel was about to wipe him out.
Exactly, man. So
he said, "You better be glad that donkey was there, or you be dead."
Yeah, exactly.
That donkey saved your life.
Because Balaam said, "Okay, I'll just go ahead and do it," and he's riding that donkey. And what happened?
The donkey saw the angels, like, "No, we're not going this way. I'm not going. You can go. I'm not going."
So these people, these religious leaders who are not contending for the faith, the fake ones, are leading you astray, just like Balaam. Okay? They're just finally, I don't know if they're giving in or they don't know the word. They're just going ahead and prophesying what feels good. They have fallen under this teaching of emotion. All right? And what about Korah? What happened to the men of Korah? Moses, the men of Korah were like the religious leaders of that day, and they knew all. They're kind of like our elders, our spiritual leaders in these dead churches today. They knew it all. They were the ones that you had to listen to. And what did God say?
They're the educated ones.
Exactly.
They've been to Bible school. They've been to all these major colleges, and that's why, like, I get in discussions with people, and they go, "Oh, well, this person can't possibly know what they're talking about. They didn't go to this college. They didn't go to that." I start laughing. I go, "How did people find out the truth before colleges came around?"
Yeah, exactly.
Did they read and educate themselves? So I don't tie into the whole thing. If you don't got a certain label in front of your name, that you can't possibly be able to talk to people about what the truth is.
Right. So these people are following the way of Cain, which we know Cain killed Abel because they're following the ways of Balaam. Okay, I'll just go tell the people what I want, what they want to hear. And then they are destroyed in Korah's rebellion. What happened to Korah? They had all these men, like today's elders, knew it all. They were the spiritual leaders. You listen to us. God told Moses, you tell the men of Korah, I want them out in the middle of the city of Jerusalem or wherever they were at. And I want the whole city to come out and see them. So the men of Korah went out into the middle, and all the people of Israel gathered around, and God opened up the ground and swallowed the men of Korah.
Wow.
Swallowed the men of Korah. Let me repeat that. Preachers, you spineless, backboning, you lacking in the true faith, you lacking, scared to preach the truth, but you're going to poke your chest out there and say, listen to me, because we have to obey the law of the land, and I'm following the clergy response team rule, and, you listen to me, because we know what we're talking about. We're not going to preach judgment. This is just not the direction we choose to take the congregation.
Yeah, that's kind of a mean spirit. Mm-hmm. We're not going to go that direction. We're going to be loving.
We don't want to offend anybody. But hey, you listen to me because I've got my degree from David Lipscomb, or I've got my degree from Yale, and I know what I'm talking about. Well, Jude says that they have been destroyed in Korah's rebellion. You better repent. You better start telling people the truth. I don't know what the opening up the ground and swallowing of today's leaders will look like, but Jude is telling us this. These men are blemishes at your love feast, eating with you without the slightest qualm. Meaning, they're gonna live the ways of this world and preach and teach lies, and then they're gonna sit right down with you at the Sunday dinner on the ground and just be so righteous and I'm your friend and I love you and God loves you, right? Jude says that they are clouds without rain, blown along by the wind, autumn trees without fruit and uprooted, twice dead. They are wild waves of the sea, foaming up their shame, wandering stars for whom blackest darkness has been reserved forever.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're clouds without rain, meaning the people of the congregation are starving.
Yeah.
They're starving, man, and they're looking at these spiritual leaders like, man, God's grace, God is going to forgive us. God's going to reestablish America. God's going to just be great, and they're believing in that, which we're not saying God's not great. But friends, there's a judgment coming if we do not repent. Have you not heard the show, man? All through Trump's deal, he's worried about protecting us from missiles, from attack. We got thousands and thousands coming to our borders, and there's not a wall. He can't get one. We got all these space weapons, man. I mean, the writing is on the wall. What are we going to do about it? We have got a super wolf blood moon coming tomorrow and the day after. judgment for the Gentiles when there's a blood moon over a Gentile nation. What's next week going to look like? We know we have a polar vortex creeping across the land. Okay, running out of time. Let me get to... Oh, I said I was going to go to the phones in a minute. Hang on a second. Oh, Yellowstone. That's what I was going to talk about. Okay, add insult to injury. I know Yellowstone's always in the news, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, Yellowstone, it's going to blow up. Well, this week, scientists are closely monitoring a 465-mile-long piece of molten rock rising below the Yellowstone.
Said 2 inches, right? Every...
Yeah,
like
it's
an
like
inch or two every hour or like every day or something like that.
A 465-mile-long piece of molten rock.
It's pretty big.
It's huge, man. Okay, Yellowstone National Park has erupted 3 times in history. 2.1 million years ago, which we ain't following that millions of years ago junk.
Right.
But, however, geologists have revealed how Yellowstone's magma chamber, which sits on top of the magma plume, is slowly rising each year, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So, friends, we got Yellowstone, a 460-mile piece of molten rock that could bust like a zit. Oh, and what it could do. But anyway.
I think they said it. I think that was right about an inch or 2 a year. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the fact that it's rising is concerning.
Okay, so now we get to Israel. The peace plan still looms. We're constantly watching this. One minute we hear that the division of Israel's land is not in the peace treaty. The next minute we hear that it is. But the latest report that has come out just 2 days ago, Trump peace deal divides Jerusalem. Palestinians get almost all of Judea and Samaria. Now,
if that's true.
Yeah,
doesn't look well for America.
If that's true, and this is coming out of CBN News, and they're pretty accurate. Now we know that Amir, he's saying that it's not a division of land in this peace treaty, but I don't think anybody really knows. President Trump's deal of the century peace plan between Israelis and Palestinians will include dividing Israel and giving 85 to 90% of the West Bank, the historic land of Judea and Samaria, to a future Palestinian state, according to a report from Israeli media Wednesday. And the report is based on information received during a briefing in Washington by a senior American official. Okay.
Now, that could be the information being put out to them, too. So
right. So, we're not reporting this as we're just reporting what CBN is reporting. We're not trying to be CNN and say, if this is right. But friends, it's written in the Bible.
Right.
And something has got to do it. Could this be it? Could all of these warnings that we have been going over now, with Trump warning us of this, are we being watchmen on the wall, we have to warn you of this, the possibilities of all this happening.
Yep. It's amazing because all those who want to know the truth will know it. So whether it's what's going on geopolitically from other countries in our border, or whether it be like what we're talking about with the pastors, with them, speaking the truth or not speaking the truth. Anybody who wants to know what's going on, God is faithful. Like he says in the word that all who lack wisdom, let them ask God who gives abundantly. So if you truly want to know what's going on and you don't have your mind made up already what you think is going on, and you're just okay with that, you really want to know, all you got to do is ask God and he'll show you what's going on. We want to know what's going on. That's why we look. We're watchmen. We, look into the stuff as much as we possibly can. So I would just encourage everybody who's listening, you don't have to agree with everything we're saying, and we don't even really necessarily expect you to, but we just want you to be willing to look into stuff. And when you kind of look at it in the light of God's word with what's going on, I don't think you can really deny what we're saying, because we're giving you verses showing you that's exactly what's going on. So, look into it yourself, but I don't think you're going to come to a incredibly different scenario, the outcome of it. So,
right. Well, let's real quick before we go. We don't do this a lot. Let's go to the phone lines for a minute and see what's going on here. How about that?
That sounds good.
Area code 678. Looks like Georgia. You're on the Front Porch Show. Go ahead.
Well, good evening, Greg. At least the polar vortex is not hitting me.
Well, how you doing, girl?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine as a frog hair split many ways. What's going on down there in Georgia?
I've just been listening to the program tonight, and I'm really... There's so much going on in this world right now, and a lot of people don't pay attention. And I've got to say this, because especially our younger generation. I saw something today. The indigenous people of the United States of America were in Washington doing their march that they do every year, and you have these young kids that were there on a Catholic church trip for a pro-life march. Have you seen the video of that yet?
Yeah, I have.
Stood in front of that man, and it turned into a mob mentality around indigenous people.
Oh, yeah.
What are we teaching our kids?
Good point.
It's crazy.
It brings out so much, and I purposely don't talk politics on Facebook because I value the friends that I have, and I have certain, people on my friends list are just a certain way, and I like the people how they are. I don't get into their politics because I've noticed, and I don't know if a lot of people in America notice this, they want to blame the Republicans, they want to blame the Democrats, they want to blame this, they want to blame that. And everybody's fighting over it, but what they don't realize is they pick up a mirror and look in that mirror, they're the ones that are causing all this hate and division in the country. Now our politicians are playing, and they're being they're being the puppet masters.
Yeah.
But America is falling into this trap.
Yep.
And we're falling right into the politicians' hands.
Yep. Well, it's what it is, Lisa. It's the spirit of free thinking that is being taken from us and has been being taught that we cannot be free thinkers because free thinking is wrong. You have to follow the ways of the world and judge everything not on common sense but on emotion. And people have fallen right into line with that.
That's why it's good not to talk about Republican, Democrat stuff. Just say, let's not go there. Like, let's not go Republican, Democrat. Let's just honestly have a conversation about this, and just take it one issue at a time. And the people you can talk to and the people you can't, just by when you make a comment and the spirit and the attitude they come at you with, whether you can talk to them or not. So like you said, there's probably some people you can't talk to because they'll just, it's like their whole identities are wrapped up in being a Republican or Democrat. So they're going to feel threatened if you even make a comment, that's the Republicans say, or especially if you say you're a Republican and they're a Democrat. So.
Right. And right now in today's world, if I want to know what's going on with Trump, if he used Charmin instead of Scott's toilet tissue, all I got to do is log on to Facebook and I'll find out. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
I'm 47 years old, and I've lived through some great presidents, and I've lived through some bad presidents. But I have never seen what I'm seeing going on in America today.
And the sad thing is that I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say, with the media, just relentlessly attacks him. It's like, I can say, I don't like the way he does some things, the way he responds and stuff. I'm not dealing with half the stress and pressure and the lies he is. So I try to put myself in his place. I'm thinking, man, if I had to run the whole country and constantly defend myself and all these liars saying stuff all day long and night long about me that just wasn't true, and they're censoring him, on his Twitter, like shadow banning him, and so a lot of stuff that he says he isn't even received by as half as many people as it should be received. And I'm not talking about the ridiculous little spats he gets in with people, about, whether he's a good president or not, but just the lies they make up about him, is just crazy because, I have a lot of respect for him because the fact that he would even want to run for office, because I wouldn't even want to do that. Honestly, it would take an act of God to totally change my heart to want to, I wouldn't be the best person for the job anyway, but even if I was very, very educated and all that stuff and knowing how to do it, I mean, just the kind of stress and dealing with the kind of compromised, no character, backbone people that are constantly there in Washington, it would just be too much for me. I would not even. I have a lot of respect just that he would even be wanting to do that, lay down all the money he has, run for office, and he said he could not do it. Like, he just saw the direction of our country, even though he's not the perfect person. I don't think there is a perfect person, but he said he, even with all his flaws, I can see that he really wants to do what's good for our country. Like, he really feels like our country is a great place that gave him the opportunity to be successful like he is. And it's just so sad to see the direction the country's going. The leaders are just really dragging it through the mud and just destroying it.
Exactly. It's our political system. And
yeah.
The only thing I'm going to say about politics is I think there needs to be terms on every aspect of what you're doing up there, because Pelosi running around with her little gavel all the time. How long has she been here?
Oh my gosh, way too long.
But on another subject, I've actually talked to Greg about this on Facebook, and we've got this little town called Gainesville, Georgia, and it is the poultry capital of the world. There's more poultry processing in this little town
than
anywhere else.
Wow.
And on Super Bowl Sunday, we have this church coming to town. There's this Westboro Baptist Church people.
Oh, yeah.
And they're targeting 6 different churches. And they're not going after just one faith. They're starting off with at a wonderful First Baptist Church of Gainesville. And this church does a lot of outreach to the community, reaches out to the poor, to the hungry, to the indigent. They have people that go around to feed, the elderly. They have, unfortunately, a family member had to go through this, but they have a group that has AA classes that meet in the church every week to try to help everybody in the community. Well, Westboro's starting with them. And then they're moving over to a Baptist church down into the poverty-stricken area of Gainesville. And then they're going to they're doing Catholic, Lutheran, and Methodist churches, too. We don't understand why they're coming to Gainesville. They're going to get media attention here, except for, of course, the major media outlets. But they're hitting up areas that they're spreading hate. Now, this is, I grew up in a Baptist Christian home. And I have never experienced hate within a church. Yeah. And that's not the gospel faith.
Nope. See, I've seen a couple of videos where they've gone after, like, veterans. They'll go to, like, their funerals and, say stuff like, God hates gay people and, the country's dealing with what they're dealing with because of homosexuality. And they're, just really... it's interesting because there's truths in the Bible about homosexuality, obviously, is a sin, so the premise kind of what they're saying, like, I would agree with, but the spirit they do it in, and like you said, the hatred, is just not of God. So it's like, you look at it, it's really unfortunate because these people are using the platform that they have to really just beat people over the head, and just like you said, just to really spread hate. It's so sad. They're going to have to give an account for that too. So if they are Christians, I mean, I'm not judging them, but the way they're behaving definitely is not pointing that direction. So
and it's rumored that Soros could be funding Westboro Baptist as well. Sister Sherry shot that link, and I've been sitting here looking over it, and it does appear that, I mean, there's a lot of people that are saying that they are. I'm gonna have to do some research on that maybe for the next show to find out where the money comes from. Follow the money.
I agree.
Yeah,
And I've got to give it to our because I don't live in Gainesville, I live in a town outside of Gainesville. But I give it to our county representatives. They're only allowing them a permit for 30 minutes at each location. And it's going to take them a good 15 to 20 minutes to go from one location to another. So they've got 10 minutes before they're escorted out.
Gosh, maybe people could get behind them and in front of them and slow down.
Well, and I'm not I'm not a sports fan.
It's congested. It's very congested, so they're going to have a hard time. And we've got lots of groups that are coming out. I know some of the bikers are coming out, and so we've got Burnell College, just our nursing college. They've got some groups that are coming out. There's a whole lot of people coming out. I mean, even we've got some local Jeep clubs that are coming out so that they can sit there and ride, in front of them and park in front of the church where they can't even access the church.
That's what it's going to take.
But, okay, well, what is the purpose? I mean, what are they actually protesting is what I'm curious about.
Nobody really knows. These churches have nothing to do with politics or anything. They're all outreach, they're all outreach to the communities. So nobody understands why they're coming here.
Well,
they're doing it on Super Bowl Sunday, which is sad because they're not going to get a whole lot of attention.
I know that when I've seen the videos with them getting out protesting, it's usually all the homosexual thing. That's the main thing I hear them saying so much. They're protesting like our country, because they allow homosexuals in the military, and that's why God's judgment's falling on our country, and that's why he hates us, and that's why that seems to be their kind of resounding thing that they just want to just hammer over and over again. So I don't know if that has to do, they're like kind of using that as a basis to say that's why all these horrible things are happening, because of homosexuals, and they can always draw lines different ways to that somehow with their grievance. So
Gainesville is still more of your country town.
Yeah.
So it's not it's very populated, but it's a very mixed community as well, because you've got a lot of different nationalities here because of the poultry area. But we don't understand why they're coming here.
Right.
But at the same time, what they're spewing and the attention they're getting is given, to me, it's given Christianity a bad name, because the good book says, it's got all your sins in there. It tells you what's right and wrong, and we as people know what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
But it also says in there, judge not lest you be judged yourself.
Right.
So I've got friends that are gay. Do I agree with what they're doing? Absolutely not. Do I feed into it? Absolutely not.
Right.
But I'm not going to judge them any less of a person.
Right.
Because the Bible tells me I'm not supposed to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's the interesting thing is the media always likes to ask the question, what do you think about gay marriage, or what do you think about homosexuality? And they want us to say what the Bible says, and then you get in a fight with them about what you think, and it's just it's such a when you respond to somebody who asks you about homosexuality, you can say, well, I believe what the Bible says, and they come and say, well, blah, 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 blah. Well, you can't, and you can get, that's when you get into discussion of why do you think it's wrong? Like they kind of pull you into, and I guess in some ways that's kind of fair to say, well, why do you think it's right? Do you think it's right? You think it's wrong? What, and they try to pull you into finding your opinion. And that's kind of what they want to, so a lot of them want to get you to say you think it's wrong so that way they can just attack you. And then some people, I think, honestly just want to know, why do you think it's wrong? Why do you think God thinks it's wrong? And then I talk to, there's all these physiological things that are, God's not going to have us do stuff that's destructive to our body and to our hearts and our minds. You're multi-layered. So, it's not just about going and doing these physical things. It's about the spiritual, the fact that the husband and wife, the man-woman relationship shows God's the way he is. He's the complete person, man and woman, all those characters. So that's why God does it this way. I mean, he does it because he wants us to be blessed, and this kind of a relationship physically destroys you, emotionally, it just creates a lot of confusion because it's not supposed to be like that. So that's why I believe that homosexuality and a homosexual marriage just can't work. It can't be blessed by God. Well, and then you get into an argument with them and they get mad at you and stuff, but at least you've kind of put that out there. But like you said, when you have people who are into that lifestyle, just because you love them, even though they're deciding to do this, because there's people, all Christians that have all different types of sins they decide to embrace. But you say, well, I love you, but if you come to me trying to get affirmation or trying to get me to affirm that your lifestyle is right, you're not going to get it. And the more you start pushing for this, I'm going to have to say, hey, you're in sin.
Well, let me run this.
It's kind of a hard thing to, it's kind of a fine line, I think.
Well, let me run this up your flagpole, Lisa. See if you salute. I'm sportless. I don't know anything about sports. When is the Super Bowl?
Well, according to my father, it's February 3rd.
Okay. Well, think about this. The largest televised event ever in history is the Super Bowl, okay? And what better way to tear down Christians in our society than to have something like Westboro at the biggest televised event ever, and then the media can go after them with a vengeance and say, look how the Christians really are, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, why come to Gainesville, Georgia? You're 65 miles away from the event.
Well, because they can cover it, though. I mean, I agree.
Media's going to be downtown Atlanta, 65 miles down, 65 miles south of here.
Well, I can
come into an area that it's kind of like going to, kind of like rolling into Mayberry.
I don't know. That's kind of interesting. I wonder why. Yeah, this is kind of a mystery.
I guarantee you there'll be a CNN anchor up there sitting in the bushes waiting for something to happen and say, "Oh, we got to break away from the Super Bowl."
Look at the way Christians really respond to each other.
Bring a cop over here.
Yeah.
Bring a cop over here. Like he did over the border wall. Oh, there's somebody's rushing the wall. No duh.
Yeah, because there's a wall.
Oh, Jim Acosta. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. But the funny thing is, and I'll shut up after this. I've got a friend over in Arizona, and she knows a lot of the ranchers that are out there close to the border. And she said, believe it or not, she says they're finding prayer rugs everywhere out there.
I've heard that.
Yeah. Crazy.
She says, and the ranchers are scared to say anything to some of the Border Patrol agents because there's a lot of Border Patrol agents they said that you can't trust.
Yeah.
Because they're allowing this to happen.
Interesting. Yeah.
She says.
Yeah. Go ahead.
There's some that you can trust, and there's a lot that you can't trust. And she's scared to say anything to some of these Border Patrol agents about what she's seeing and how many are coming across her property.
Wow.
Because then she becomes a target.
Right. Yeah, especially if they're coming across her property, because the word will get out when they come across her property, they'll be attacking her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, that's rough.
And that's sad. Somebody else close to them actually said you wouldn't believe the amount of children that are being trafficked across these borders these open border. There's so much human trafficking and sex slaves that are going back and forth, and a lot of people don't understand. They say, "Oh, well, they captured 300 people coming across the border, and 179 of those were children that didn't have any parents with them." Yeah. And people are saying, "Well, why would they send their children like that?" Because those children, if they get brought across the border by these sex traffickers, They're undocumented. Nobody knows they're here, so nobody's going to go look for them to help them.
That's a good point. And go ahead.
We as adults have got to protect these children.
Yeah.
But there's good money coming across that border with that, back and forth. And there's some wealthy people that are buying for us. And of course, they don't want the wall.
Right. Wow.
And so the atrocities that they see at these borders and across their property is just, they said it's horrid.
Wow.
You know, drugs and beat up children. And there was even one gentleman that was on the news the other night, and he said there's a tree at the back of his property they used to call the rape tree. Wow. Because women would come across that border and there was illegal standing there waiting, and they would rape them and hang their underwear up in the tree.
Wow.
Until the property owner himself built him and his sons built a section of wall back there, and they've got all kinds of, these ranchers are taking it on themselves because they're putting out equipment with, cameras and heat-seeking equipment. And he says they've got guys that come out there at night and fly drones around on his own property to stop this happening.
Yeah. I think that's what it's going to end up taking. You know what I mean? Especially if this wall doesn't get built. It's like the ranchers are going to have to just like militarize, because they're going to need all that. Like you said, they're going to have to like arm themselves like that. And it's almost like the militia full on. You know what I mean? It's just like you have to because any decent person, I'm sure a lot of these ranchers are really good people. Any decent person is not going to put up with that. If I was living on the border and I saw that happen, I'd be going out there with guns and telling people, I'd be wanting to liberate these women. I'd be like, you're dead. You just sit there and pat. You know what I mean? That's the way I'd feel about it. If you're going to do this kind of stuff, you're going to threaten me and do this stuff, you don't deserve to live anymore. I'm sorry.
Well, I think that's what it's probably going to come to.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because it's like you as a person can only deal with this for so long and not see anything done about it before you just feel like you need to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
My heart breaks for these kids because a lot of people, they want to sit here and say, oh, we don't need this wall. We've got to stop these children from being sold and trafficked like this, because it's not only the children from these other countries, children in the United States are coming up missing every day, and they're going across that border.
You know what they need to do? A lot of these ranchers or the people that can get video footage of that stuff, what they need to do is they need to shoot it. They need to send it to like Alex Jones or like one of these independent media sources that has a bigger reach, and just be anonymous. That way they're still getting it out there, but they're not going to put themselves in harm's way. Now, I don't know exactly. You'd probably have to be kind of careful on how much of what you showed the area, and just kind of, I don't know how you do that, like somehow zoom in on what's happening. And that way they don't recognize, hey, that's that house. You know what I mean? I don't know how. That would be the only issue you'd run into if you released footage like that, is they would recognize, where you're at, and they would know that it was you that shot it. So it's kind of, I don't know, man. That's a really difficult situation to be in. But like you said, people have to know about it. So it's kind of like one of those things where, I wouldn't tell them what to do, but if it was me, I would just send it. And if I did that, probably what I'd be doing, I wouldn't have my family living on the border. I'd have a house somewhere else too, but I'd just set up cameras there to capture the footage. That's probably what I'd end up having to do. And it's like I said, I know a lot of these ranchers probably wouldn't want to leave their properties because it's their their But if it were me there and my family is there, that's what I would do. I'd relocate and then just have cameras set up there and just for the sake of gathering that footage to get it out there, because people are so brainwashed by the media. Like you're saying, they think, oh, we don't need a border wall, because they don't see what's actually happening. So,
no, and they don't want to. They don't want to. There's some video clips that have been coming out on Facebook with some of these ranchers, and there was actually a Border Patrol agent, and he was going through Arizona and showing an area of Arizona where there's just like an old Scott, how they used to make them fences where they just put two poles up against each other and run a wire down the middle.
Yeah.
That's how some of the border is protected right now.
Wow.
He was showing them this area, then he took them over to the fence.
Yeah.
where the wall stops, where that, where the metal wall stops and it's got, openings in it. He said, and this was a Border Patrol agent, said, you would not believe at some of these areas where money is being exchanged through that wall.
I don't know the words.
And they have children stripped down with people having sex with them through the fence.
Wow.
Through the fence.
Crazy.
But, society wants to say we don't need this wall. It's a humanitarian crisis. Oh, yeah, it's a huge humanitarian crisis for the children that are coming across and the things that are the atrocities that are happening to this younger generation. How many of them that are in the United States now went through that and now have this mentality that they're spreading throughout the United States? They're not getting the help they need.
Yeah.
Their mind's not right. They've gone through major tragedies. And it's going on every day, and we as a society are turning our backs to it like, oh, no, we don't need no wall. We don't need to stop nothing. There's nothing going on down there.
That's why churches need to be, like, talking about it with their congregations, because it's like, this whole separation of church and state, we're going to talk politics and stuff, like you probably heard me say before, it's not a political issue. This is a truth issue. Like, if this is really what's going on, God wants us to say it. Like, God expects us as those who have the truth to speak it to people, because, or else we're held accountable. Like, it's like the blood will be on our head if we don't say something. Like you calling in and telling people what's going on. See, you're doing your part. You're saying this is what's going on. And that's what, if everybody was doing that, I guarantee you this wouldn't be able to exist. If the God's people were,
Well, Lisa, I want to share something with you there. We're going to have to run here in just a moment. But
all right.
I just got sent a link here from Indianapolis. Let's see here. Conditions worsen as winter storm strengthens and snow is still on the way. It's supposed to snow 1 inch an hour with 0-degree temperatures in Indiana with winds of 40 miles an hour. So that polar vortex that you were speaking about seems to be missing us, but hitting Indiana. What do you think about that?
You couldn't pay me enough money to live up north.
Well, real quick before we go, girl, man, I hadn't talked to you in a long time. How you been doing?
Been doing great. It's been kind of a rough year or so with Daddy, but I've kind of stayed quiet with that. But things are good. Things are good.
Well, good. Well, I hadn't been down in your neck of the woods in quite some time now. It's been, gosh, that place that I go to down there, right down the road from you, I bet it's been a year since I've been there.
Yeah, those areas are really building up, too. There's more and more industries for coming like it's nobody's business.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, you still keeping people in line down there, aren't you?
Of course.
Well, do me a favor then. Since the Super Bowl's February the 3rd, keep me abreast about this Westboro deal. And closer to the time, we'll get you back on and let you do some reporting. How's that?
Well, that sounds good. A couple of buddies of mine are going out there on the front lines. I've already been instructed by my 81-year-old mother that she's taking my keys and I'm not allowed to leave.
Well, you know what would be cool is if I could do a show. If I happen to be in that weekend, I'll do the show on a Sunday. Maybe we could get some live interaction down there at the front line. Now that would be cool, but I can't guarantee that I'll be in on a Sunday though.
Yeah, well, they're doing it really early in the morning, which is even more hilarious because they're doing it at 8 o'clock in the morning till like 11. Because they've only got, like I said, they've only got 30 minutes at each place.
Oh, okay.
And they picked one area that is not known to be a very good area of town, so they might have picked they might be up meeting their match when they get there.
Yeah, they may not realize that one governor that wanted to abolish gun control or guns down there didn't make it in, and everybody still has their guns down there.
Oh yeah, we got camp that was all for the guns.
That's it. Well, I tell you, sister, man, it's been great to hear from you. I hadn't talked to you in forever.
Yeah, it's been good to talk to you again too, sir.
And we've gone over about 30 minutes past our show time. I wished I'd have had glanced down there and seen you down there a little earlier. I'd have brought you on sooner.
It's all right.
Well, you don't be a stranger now. You let me know. We'll bring you on earlier next time.
All right, sounds good.
I agree.
Yeah, because man, you got a lot of insight. Yeah. I was getting, we're getting
Good
a lot
stuff.
of response. Sister Sherry down in Florida says that she's like, I don't even know her, but I love her already. So, well, all right, girl. Well, we're going to turn you loose and close the show. Thank you so much for your information and your insight.
You're very welcome.
And look forward to doing it again. Chuck, this is,
right.
Before you go, Lisa, this is Lisa down in Georgia, if you hadn't figured that out already.
Yes.
She, go ahead and tell him. Chuck's new to the program there, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
Get him filled in on that horrific vortex that you had to endure that year.
Mm.
Oh, my word. We had, well, for the first time, and I can't tell you how many years, we had an ice storm that happened, and they had put a little bit of salt out, but they didn't do enough down through downtown Atlanta, and the car started icing up as they was driving, and it shut down all the interstates through Atlanta for 2 days.
Wow.
And everything shut down. But I'm telling you, every time they say there's snow, the school starts shutting down, even if it's just a dusting.
Yeah,
and we're not equipped for having that crap down here.
Yeah, we were talking. I was at my job. We were talking about. There's a couple guys. I think one guy from Louisiana, and he's like, "Oh, this ain't it's cold weather, and it's not a And there's another guy from up north, and he was saying, "Oh, you guys don't know how to deal with weather like this." I said, "You're right, because we usually don't get weather, that's even very much snow. That's why everything kind of closes down, like you said. We're not really equipped for that, because when it is like a couple inches of snow, it's like, oh my gosh." And then plus you got all these roads that the side roads that freeze up, and you're just like, okay, half the people can't show up for school. Teachers, and they're stuck. They can't get out of their driveways. So it's kind of an interesting thing how people that are from up north, they're so used to that, it's not that big of a deal to them. But like you said, down here we're not as prepared for stuff like that. So
no, and our roads aren't built for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they don't have any snow trucks to accommodate it really when it does happen.
Yeah.
So, well, I tell you, I got to leave out and go all the way up into Michigan this week, so I'm going to load up a whole trailer load of Vortex there, girl, and bring it back down to you. How's that?
You're gonna pack up Frosty and bring it down.
Hey, that's it, man. And who knows, man? Maybe the Lord will intervene, and you'll have another vortex over the Super Bowl, and might freeze them people out.
just in that one area where they're at.
It's gonna be pretty frigid, from my understanding, around there anyway.
Wow.
That's it. Well, all right, girl. Well, listen, it's been great talking to you, and I love you to death, and I am so appreciative that you took the time to call in and talk to me. Ain't Chuck?
Love you.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been great talking to you. I've missed talking to you.
Yep. You'll have to do this more often for sure. So we will go ahead and cut you loose, girl. Any last words you'd like to say?
Everybody keep the faith up, and keep your free will thinking. That's what the good Lord blessed us with.
That's right.
Amen.
I agree.
All right, sister. We will catch you later on.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you later.
God bless you.
Mm-hmm. And that was Sister Lisa. Man, we've had a lot of fun through the years.
She's on top
man.
of her game. She knows what's going on.
And I'm glad she called in, because seriously, but she used to call in all the time. We used to cut up like this years ago, and then she got busy with some things on her end. So good to hear her call in. Well, Chuck, man, we've run way past our time, and I've got to go because I've got things I got to do. But I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad she called in, man. That
Yeah,
just made
that's
my
cool.
whole night right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
I agree.
My whole night's made. I am just for the sake of it. I am. I'm
Yeah.
gonna load up some polar vortex, or
Gonna bottle it up, huh?
At least take some pictures of it while I'm up there and send it to her. Maybe I put on my cousin Eddie hat and say, "Hey, Lisa."
That's funny.
So, well, Chuck, another one in our back pocket. Sorry it blew the live broadcast halfway through it, but we're going
That's
to.
all right, man.
We had a backdoor recording going of this whole program, and after it ends, we're going to load her back up, and you can go back and hear the thing in its entirety.
That's right.
So, all right, friends, repent, give your life back to Jesus Christ. Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. We'll see you next weekend. I'm Old Smokehouse.
I'm Chuck Bird.
And we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Smokehouse. To talk to Smokehouse, dial 641-552-9354. That number once again, 641-552-9354. And enter access code 252380, followed by the pound sign. Call in and join the show.
SmokehouseStudios.net. God is among us. The door to the ark is slamming shut.